You probably think you already know the story of the Titanic, the iceberg, the lifeboats, the band playing as the ship slowly disappeared beneath the surface of the Atlantic. These are the parts that are remembered, the parts repeated so often that they feel almost rehearsed. But there is another side to the story, quieter and less often spoken about. Nearly 700 people boarded that ship in third class. Most of them believed, quite sincerely, that they had been handed a miracle. To them, it felt like winning a lottery they never expected to enter. This is what life was actually like for the poorest passengers aboard the most famous ship that ever sank. If you happen to be listening late at night, perhaps at the end of a long and tiring day, this is a gentle place to rest your attention. There is no need to rush. No need to hold on tightly to any particular thought. Just allow the story to move at its own slow pace. Settle yourself a little more comfortably. Adjust your pillow if you need to. Pull your blanket closer, not because anything urgent is about to happen, but because we are going somewhere far away in both time and place. We are drifting back to April of 1912. You are not watching from a distance, and you are not reading this from the safety of the future. For now, you are there. You are living it, one unhurried moment at a time. The tender boat rocks gently beneath your boots as you stand near the railing. The motion is slow and rhythmic, the kind that makes your stomach feel slightly uncertain but not unpleasant. You look up, and for a moment it is difficult to understand what you are seeing. You have seen ships before. You grew up near Cork, after all, where the harbour is full of coming and going, of masts and funnels and weathered hulls. But this thing in Queenstown Harbour feels different. It does not feel like a ship at all. It feels like a floating city, like a cathedral laid carefully on its side. It looks as though every building in your village has been stacked one atop another, then doubled for good measure. The Titanic. Even the name sounds borrowed from myth, from stories about giants and impossible feats. It sounds like something that should exist only in legends, not in the real world. Not in your world. Not in a world of potato fields and damp stone cottages, of low ceilings and roofs that leak when the rain comes sideways. Not in a world where your mother's rosary beads click softly each evening as prayers are said by the fire. And yet, here it is, real as the salt spray touching your face, real as the weight sewn into the lining of your coat, 23 pounds carefully hidden there, real as the inspection card folded in your pocket, proof that you are healthy enough, clean enough, acceptable enough to board this marvel and sail toward America. Your name is Selian Brennan. You are 19 years old. You have never travelled more than 30 miles from the townland where you were born, and in less than 15 minutes you will step onto a ship that cost more to build than every farm in County Cork combined. The thought is difficult to hold for long. It slips away as quickly as it arrives. The tender, named America, carries around 120 passengers. Most of them are Irish, most of them are young, and nearly all of them are holding the same mix of fear and excitement, that strange, fragile balance where smiling feels safer than silence. Because if the smiling stops, the tears might start. And once they start, there is no knowing when they would end. Your cousin Padraig stands beside you, gripping the railing so tightly that his knuckles have turned pale. He is 2 years older, supposedly the sensible one, the planner, the one who organized the papers, the tickets, the long chain of decisions that led to this morning. Right now, he looks as though he might lean over the side and be sick into the harbour. He swallows hard and exhales slowly. "Would you look at it?" he says. "You are already looking. You cannot look anywhere else." The hull of the ship is painted a deep, solid black, stretching endlessly across the water. Above it rises the white superstructure, climbing upward like cliffs carved from steel and glass. 4 enormous funnels pierce the sky. 3 of them release lazy plumes of white steam that drift and dissolve in the air. The 4th stands silent, decorative, You will learn later that it was added simply because it looked better that way. Everything about this ship is designed to impress. That is the White Star Line's specialty. They do not compete on speed. Cunard already holds that title with Mauritania and Lusitania. Instead, White Star competes on size, on comfort, on the feeling that you are crossing the Atlantic inside the finest hotel in the world. Even in third class. Especially in third class, in a way. Because this is something the history books rarely dwell on. The real money was not made in first class. Yes, the millionaires paid enormous sums for their suites, but there were only so many of them. The real profit came from the hundreds and hundreds of immigrants filling the lower decks. People like you, people paying £7 and a few shillings for passage to a new life. In today's money, it would be close to $900. Not a small amount. Not for a farming family. Your family worked for 2 years to gather it. Your sister Mary sent money from Boston, where she works as a domestic. Your mother sold the good cow. Your father took whatever work he could find down in Cove, loading cargo onto ships much like this one. That same cargo may very well be resting in the hold beneath your feet right now. All of it was done so you could stand here on this small rocking boat, staring up at the largest moving object ever created by human hands, feeling both extraordinarily lucky and impossibly small at the same time. Boarding at Queenstown is a kind of orderly chaos. Lines form and dissolve, then reform again. Voices overlap. Instructions are given and repeated. Earlier that morning, you had already passed through the offices of James Scott and Company on the Quayway. A doctor examined you there. He checked your scalp for lice, your eyes for signs of trachoma, your skin for anything that might suggest infection. He asked you to cough, asked you to walk across the room, asked if anyone in your family had consumption. America did not want the sick. The immigration laws were strict. Anyone who arrived ill could be turned away at Ellis Island and sent back on the next ship at the company's expense. White Star preferred to decide that in advance. Better to refuse someone in Ireland than to pay for their return. You passed easily. You are young, strong, shaped by years of farm work. The doctor barely looked at you before stamping your papers and calling for the next person. Now, as the tender drifts alongside Titanic's massive hull, there is another inspection. Officers in crisp white uniforms stand at the gangway. Tickets are checked, inspection cards examined. Names compared carefully against the manifest. Each step feels deliberate, unhurried, and strangely final. Your heart beats harder than you expect. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because this is the moment where everything becomes real. Once you step through that doorway, there is no pretending. You are leaving. Ireland will become something behind you, something reachable only through letters, through memory, and through the $42 it would cost to cross back the other way. For now, though, you wait your turn. The ship does not move. The water laps softly against steel, and the future, large and quiet, waits just beyond the gangway. The line inches forward without any particular hurry. Boots scuff softly against the deck of the tender. Somewhere nearby, music begins to drift through the air. Takes you a moment to place it. A piper stands off to one side, playing slowly, deliberately. You will learn his name later, Eugene Daly. But for now, he is simply a man sending a familiar tune across the water. The melody is a nation once again, and it carries with it a quiet sense of farewell. It mixes with the crying of gulls overhead, the steady chug of the tender's engine, and beneath it all, the deep mechanical thrum of the Titanic herself. The ship seems to hum, not loudly, but constantly, as though reminding everyone nearby that she is awake. Eventually it is your turn. You step forward and hand over your ticket. The officer takes it without expression. He glances down at the paper, then at your inspection card, then briefly at you. The process feels routine, practiced, unremarkable. Name? Selian Brennan, sir. Destination? New York. Then Boston. My sister's there. The officer nods. He stamps something you don't quite see, hands your documents back, and points toward a dark opening in the ship's side. "Third class," he says. "Follow the corridor. Take the stairs down. A steward will show you to your berth." And just like that, there is nothing more to discuss. You step forward, and without ceremony, you walk into history. The gangway door looms large as you pass through it. It is massive, built thick and heavy, designed to seal shut against the sea. You notice the locking mechanisms as you go by. Great metal dogs that could clamp the door tight if needed. Everything about this ship seems intent on keeping the ocean out, on denying the simple fact that you are floating above water deep enough to swallow mountains whole. Inside, the corridor is narrow but clean. The walls are painted white, steel interrupted now and then by timber partitions. You are deep in the belly of the ship now, down on E-deck, and almost immediately you feel it. The vibration. The engines are not running at full power yet. The ship is still at anchor, but their presence is unmistakable. The sound settles into your bones, a low, steady hum that makes the ship feel alive, as though all this steel has a heartbeat of its own. A steward in White Star livery gestures you along, guiding you toward the back of the ship. As you walk, you begin picking up the language without trying. Forward is front, port is left, starboard is right. The words settle quietly in your mind, finding space alongside the Gaelic and English already living there. "Stores," the steward says as you pass a room stacked with supplies. That's what they call it anyway. Meal stores. You barely register the explanation. Your attention is caught by the sheer length of the corridor. It stretches farther than any hallway you have ever seen, disappearing into the distance. Later, you will learn that the crew call it Scotland Road, named after a busy street in Liverpool. It runs almost the length of the ship, wide enough for two people to pass comfortably. Doors line both sides, cabins, storage rooms, service areas, and the place is alive with movement. People are everywhere. Voices rise and fall in languages you recognize and others you do not. Irish and English certainly, Swedish perhaps, something Slavic, something that sounds Italian. Families with children move carefully along. Young men like yourself walk with uncertain confidence, and women clutch bags while looking around with the same overwhelmed expression you feel on your own face. This is third class. Not the caricature from posters, not the faceless masses from cartoons, just people, ordinary people. Some desperately poor, yes, having sold nearly everything they own to afford this passage, but others are tradespeople, cobblers, carpenters, tailors, people with skills and experience who simply could not find enough work back home. People like your father, a slater by trade, a good one too. Roofs were his specialty, but there are only so many roofs to be made in County Cork, and far too many men who know how to make them. He would have come himself if he could have afforded it. Instead, he sent you and Padraig ahead to find work, to establish yourselves, to send money home, and perhaps someday to bring the rest of the family across. The steward leads you down a stairwell, then another. The ship feels like a maze, decks layered upon decks, each marked by a letter. You started on E-deck, moved down to F, and now you are heading toward the aft section where families and single women are berthed. You hesitate. You are not a family. You are not a single woman. You are a young man. You ask the question quietly. Cabins are full up forward, the steward explains without stopping. You and your cousin will be sharing with a family. He checks his manifest. Brennan, it says here. Any relation? Not that I know of, you reply. Brennan's common enough. Fair enough. You'll have the upper bunks. Family's got the lowers. 2 children, I think. Try not to step on anyone in the night. He stops at a door. The number blurs almost immediately. E45 or something close to it. Here you are. Supper's at 5:30. Dining saloons on F-deck. Forward you'll hear the bugle. And then he is gone, already moving on to guide the next group of confused passengers through the ship. You stand in the doorway for a moment, looking inside. This is your home for the next 6 days. The cabin is small. That is the first thing you notice. Perhaps 10 feet long and 7 feet wide, with 2 sets of bunk beds built into the walls. A small ceramic wash basin sits in the corner, with a tank mounted above it. Not running water, you realize. You will have to refill it yourself. The walls are lined with white painted pine panels. The floor is covered in red linoleum, smooth and easy to clean. A single electric light hangs from the ceiling. You have seen electric lights before, once or twice, in the larger shops back in Cork. But having one in your own room feels almost extravagant. The family sharing the cabin is already there. A woman in her 30s, worn-looking but with kind eyes. 2 children, a boy of about 8 and a girl perhaps 5. You notice the absence of a man and she explains when she catches your glance. He's forward with the other men, she says. They don't let families stay together if there's no room. Immigration rules keeps the men separate. Her name is Margaret Brennan. No relation, as far as either of you can tell. She is from Limerick and travelling to Chicago, where her brother is waiting. You nod, set your small bag down carefully, and let the door close behind you. Outside, the ship continues its low, steady hum. Inside, the cabin settles into quiet, and without realizing it, you have already begun the crossing. Her husband, Daniel, has been assigned a berth in the forward section with the single men. He shares a cabin with 5 strangers, sleeping head to foot in narrow bunks that leave little room to turn. "It's only 6 days," Margaret says quietly. You can tell she has repeated the words to herself many times already. "We'll see him at meals and on deck. It's only for sleeping." She says it carefully, as though speaking too firmly might make the arrangement feel heavier than it already does. There is something in her eyes that betrays her calm words. A recognition of how strange it is, how unnatural it feels to board a ship together as a family and then be scattered almost immediately to opposite ends of it. But she does not dwell on it. There is no point. The decision has already been made. The children, at least, seem untroubled. They are far too busy marveling at everything around them. The electric light overhead, the small round porthole set into the wall, the way the entire room seems to vibrate gently as if breathing. To them, it is an adventure, something new and curious, free of the weight their parents carry. You lift your bag onto the upper bunk. It is a small bag. There was never much to bring. A change of clothes, a little food for the journey, though you were told meals would be provided, a photograph of your family, pressed into your hand by your mother at the last moment, a bottle of holy water, wrapped carefully, which she made you promise to keep safe. Padraig takes the other upper bunk. He settles himself in with practiced familiarity, already pulling out his rosary. He murmurs prayers under his breath, fingers moving steadily along the beads. That is Padraig, always the devout one. You are meant to be devout too, of course. Everyone back home is, but you have always found your thoughts drifting more easily toward what lies ahead than toward what has already been said and said again. And what lies ahead feels vast. America, New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty rising out of the water, Ellis Island, and then a train to Boston, where Mary will be waiting. You picture her face as clearly as you can. What lies ahead is work, hard work most likely, construction perhaps, the docks, wherever they need a young Irishman with strong arms and a willingness to do what needs doing. What lies ahead is a life, one that has not yet taken shape. You lie back on your bunk and let the ship move beneath you. The motion is subtle. The Titanic is so enormous that the small waves of the harbour barely seem to touch her. Still, there is a gentle rocking, a slow, steady rhythm, like a cradle, impossibly large, as though the Atlantic itself is already carrying you forward. The walls are thin, sound travels easily. You hear coughing from the cabin next door, a baby crying somewhere farther down the corridor, footsteps overhead, and beneath it all the constant vibration of the engines, low and steady, making your bones hum softly. Back home you shared a cottage with your entire family. Privacy was never something you expected or particularly understood. But this feels different. Here, you are surrounded by strangers, people you may never see again after New York. People who are all experiencing the same strange mixture of fear and excitement, the same quiet leap into the unknown. A whistle blows somewhere above, long and unmistakable. The ship shudders slightly. "We're moving," Margaret says almost to herself, and you are. You can feel it now. The slow turning of the great vessel, the engines awakening to full power. Through the porthole, you watch the Irish coast begin to slide past. Green hills, stone walls, the distant spire of a church. Queenstown, Cove as you have always called it. It may be the last piece of Ireland you ever see, the last glimpse of the only world you have ever known. From somewhere nearby, a voice begins to sing. An old Sean Nos lament. The song is unaccompanied, the voice high and clear and aching in its beauty. It drifts through thin walls and narrow corridors, weaving its way through the vast humming machinery of the ship. And without warning, tears begin to fall. Not sobs, just quiet tears, slipping down your face as Ireland fades into the distance. You can hear Padraig crying too, trying to hide it in the bunk above the children. Margaret holds her daughter close, her face buried in the child's hair. Everyone in this cabin is crying, in the cabins around you as well. Perhaps throughout the entire third-class section, 700 people, 700 hearts breaking quietly at the same time, floating away from everything they have ever loved. And yet, you are smiling too, because tomorrow you will wake up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, aboard the largest ship in the world, heading toward a future that could be anything at all. The bottle of holy water presses lightly against your chest, where you have tucked it into your shirt. Your mother's voice echoes in your memory. The last thing she said before you boarded the tender. Don't forget where you come from, but don't be afraid of where you're going. The singing continues for a while longer. The ship moves steadily on. Somewhere beyond your porthole, the sun is setting, painting the water in soft shades of gold and rose and purple. This is the beginning. This is third class on the Titanic, for all its cramped spaces and thin walls, for the separation from loved ones, for the constant vibration, the unfamiliar food and the stranger faces. This is still the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to you. You have no idea what is coming. None of you do. But that is for later, much later. Right now, you are 19 years old. You are sailing to America, and the world is opening slowly before you, like a flower finally turning toward the sun. Right now, you close your eyes and let the rocking of the ship carry you toward dreams of wide streets and tall buildings, of your sister's face when she sees you at the station. Right now, you sleep. The mattress beneath you is thin, not much softer than your bed at home. The wool blanket is rough against your chin. There is no sheet, no pillowcase. You brought your own, as the steward suggested, though many did not. Still, it is warm, and it is clean. When morning comes, you will be hundreds of miles from Ireland, and hundreds of miles closer to everything you have ever dreamed of. The singing has faded. The children below breathe slowly, deeply, already asleep. Margaret whispers a prayer into the darkness. Padraig's rosary beads click softly, a sound like rain against a distant window, and the Titanic sails on, carrying you and 700 other dreamers across the dark Atlantic toward the morning waiting just beyond the horizon. You wake to the sound of someone being sick, not in your own cabin, thank God, but close, very close. The thin timber wall to your left does nothing to soften it. You hear every heave, every splash, every miserable groan. Whoever it is sounds as though they might expire right there on the spot, defeated entirely by the motion of the sea. You will learn the word properly soon enough, though you have heard it before: seasickness. Some people simply cannot adapt to the movement of a ship. Their bodies revolt against the constant rocking, the endless rise and fall that never quite stops, no matter how large or powerful the vessel might be. You consider yourself fortunate. Your stomach feels fine, a little empty perhaps, but steady. Nothing churning, nothing threatening to make an unwelcome appearance. Padraig, on the other hand, looks unwell. He grips the edge of his bunk as though afraid he might slide off if he loosens his hold. His face has taken on a pale, greenish cast. "You all right?" you ask. He shakes his head very slowly. Even that small movement seems to make things worse. "I'll be grand," he manages after a moment. "Just need to find my sea legs. That is what they call it." Finding your sea legs. The process of teaching your body how to live on a moving surface, how to compensate for the pitch and roll without conscious effort. Some people find them in a few hours, others take days, and some unlucky souls never find them at all, spending the entire crossing bent over buckets, wishing the ocean would give them a moment's peace. Below you, the children are already awake. Little William is explaining a dream to his sister Mary, something about horses made of clouds. Mary is unimpressed. She wants breakfast. Margaret is up and dressed, her movements efficient despite the tiredness in her face. Mothers, especially on a ship like this, do not have the luxury of lying still and feeling sorry for themselves. There are children to feed, clothes to sort, and an entire day of keeping young ones occupied in a very small space. "Morning," she says when she notices you stirring. "Sleep well?" You nod. You actually did. Better than you expected. The constant vibration that felt so strange last night has softened into something almost comforting, like a steady heartbeat, as though the ship itself is alive beneath you, carrying you along. "Not bad, you say. Bit noisy, though." She laughs. It is not really funny, but she laughs anyway, because what else can you do? The noise is everywhere. Even now, in what passes for morning quiet, the sounds never stop. A family in the next cabin arguing in low voices, a baby crying farther down the corridor. Footsteps overhead, crew members moving about their duties, the endless mechanical rhythm of the engines, and through the wall the unfortunate passenger who is still being sick, in daylight, or something close to it. You take a better look at the cabin. The single electric bulb casts everything in a yellowish glow that makes it difficult to tell the time. The walls are made of thin timber panels, painted but worn. They do not reach all the way to the ceiling. There is a gap at the top, perhaps a foot or so, opening directly into the corridor beyond. You suppose it is for ventilation. Down here in the bowels of the ship, fresh air has to circulate somehow. Without it, the place would quickly become unbearable, but it also means privacy is more of an idea than a reality. Every cough, every sneeze, every whispered conversation floats out through that gap, mixing with the sounds from every other cabin. It feels like living in one enormous room that has been divided up by partitions that never quite close. Back home, your family lived in a 2-room cottage. Privacy was scarce there as well, but at least the walls were stone. At least sounds did not travel quite so freely. Here it feels as though you are sleeping among 100 strangers all at once. Padraig finally swings his legs out of bed, moving cautiously like a man crossing ice. "I need the toilet," he mutters. That raises an important question. Where is the toilet? There is none in the cabin, of course. Third class does not include private facilities. What it includes are communal water closets scattered along the corridors, shared by everyone in this section of the ship. For bathing, there are 2 bathtubs. Just 2, one for the men, one for the women, for all 700 or so third-class passengers. If you want a bath, you put your name down with a steward and wait your turn. Perhaps you will manage one during the entire crossing, if luck is on your side. Most people do not mind, not because they are dirty, but because in 1912, daily bathing is not the expectation it would become later. Once a week is normal for working people. Once a month is not unusual. Some even believe bathing too often is unhealthy, that it opens the pores to illness and strips away the body's natural protections. So 2 bathtubs for 700 people feels, to many, quite sufficient, more than they ever had access to at home. The water closets, though, are another matter, those you cannot avoid. Padraig staggers out into the corridor, following the painted signs. They are written in English, which is helpful for you, but you have already noticed that many of your fellow passengers do not speak English at all. Swedes, Finns, Italians, Syrians, Chinese, people from places you have barely heard of, all packed together inside this floating maze, all trying to navigate a ship larger than most villages. While Padraig is gone, you decide to wash up. The ceramic basin in the corner is solid and cold, white with a faint bluish tint. Above it sits the water tank. You fetch water from the corridor tap and pour it in yourself. It is not running water in the modern sense, but it does the job. You splash water onto your face, letting it wake you gently. The ship hums around you. The day has begun. It's cold, of course. No hot water for third class. Not without a lot of effort anyway. The chill wakes you fully, clearing the last fog of sleep from your mind. In the small mirror above the basin, you study your own reflection. You look the same as yesterday, the same as a week ago, the same as a month ago. But there is a subtle difference now, something you can see in your eyes. You are not the same person who left Cork. Already you are changing, becoming someone different, someone who will walk off this ship in America and meet a world that does not yet know you. Margaret has taken the children to find breakfast. She invited you along, but you hesitate. You want to wait for Padraig, your cousin. He is your companion in all the important things, meals included. While you wait, your gaze drifts around the cabin. It is remarkably clean, spotlessly clean, almost clinical, like a hospital room or a doctor's office. White painted walls, the red linoleum floor, everything designed to be wiped down easily, to disinfect quickly. No curtains where dust could gather, no carpets where dirt might hide. The reason for this becomes clear almost immediately: disease. The shipping companies are terrified of it. One outbreak, measles, typhoid, or, God forbid, cholera, and the whole ship could turn into a floating coffin. Hundreds of passengers packed tightly together. Illness spreads fast, deadly, profitable voyages ruined in days. That is why they inspected you so carefully before boarding, checking your scalp for lice, your eyes for signs of infection, asking about your family's medical history. America does not want sick immigrants. The shipping company does not want dead passengers. Everything is designed to minimize risk. Clean surfaces, separated classes, an actual hospital ward somewhere toward the stern, staffed by ship doctors and matrons who can isolate anyone showing symptoms before it spreads. Most vaccinations do not exist yet. The great medical breakthroughs are decades away. If disease starts spreading, all they can do is quarantine the sick and hope. It is sobering. You are trapped here for 6 days with hundreds of strangers, any one of whom might carry something deadly without even knowing it. And yet the same was true back home, the same anywhere humans gather. At least here, the ship tries to prevent it. At least here, everything is clean. Padraig returns, looking slightly less green. The walk to the water closet and back seems to have steadied him. Perhaps the worst of the seasickness has passed. Either way, he is ready for breakfast. You both step into the corridor together, following the current of passengers moving in the same direction. Scotland Road, the crew calls this main passageway. It runs nearly the full length of the ship on E-deck, connecting the forward sections where single men sleep to the aft sections where families and single women are berthed. This morning it is crowded, packed even. Everyone is heading to the same place, the dining saloon on F deck, where breakfast is served between 8 and 10. Doors line the corridor, some open, some closed. Through the open ones you catch glimpses of life. A young woman brushing her hair in front of a mirror. An older man reading from a prayer book. Children bouncing on bunks while their mother scolds them to be careful, to stop before they break something. And the sounds. So many sounds. Conversations in languages you cannot name. Babies fussing. Someone playing a harmonica very badly. And beneath it all, the engine's deep, constant hum, so present that you hardly notice it anymore. The people around you are not what you expected. You knew there would be immigrants. Of course. That is what third class is for. Europeans chasing the hope of a better life in America. But in your head, you imagined a single type, a homogeneous mass. Poor people, desperate people, people without options. The reality is far more nuanced. Yes, there are passengers who clearly have very little. You can see it in their patched clothing, their thin, worn faces, the way they clutch their bundles as though someone might steal them at any moment. And yet there are others who appear almost respectable. Men in pressed suits with starched collars, women in modest dresses and proper hats, families who are neither rich nor destitute, people who could have booked second class if they wanted, but chose to save the money instead, tradespeople, cobblers, carpenters, bakers, tailors, skilled hands who know their craft. They are not fleeing poverty so much as seeking opportunity. Work in America, steady pay, a chance to build something new. They packed up their skills, their families, and took passage on the finest ship in the world. Because that is what the Titanic is, even in third class. The finest ship in the world. The White Star Line insured it. Third class accommodations here are better than second class on many other vessels. Private cabins instead of open dormitories. Meals included instead of bring your own. Electric lights. Running water in the corridors. Actual toilets instead of buckets. For many passengers, this is the most comfortable journey they have ever taken. More comfortable than homes in Europe. More comfortable than anything they will find in America for the first few years. These 6 days at sea could, in fact, be a vacation. For some, the only one they will ever have. The thought sits oddly in your chest. A vacation. You never would have called it that before. And yet, looking around, you see it is true. Nobody must work. 3 meals a day are provided. Common rooms for socializing. Open decks for fresh air. And the only requirement is patience. Waiting for the bugle to sound. Waiting for the ship to carry you across the water. The Atlantic stretches ahead, calm and endless, carrying everyone quietly, steadily, toward whatever awaits beyond the horizon. 6 days of rest, you tell yourself quietly. 6 days before the real work begins, before the long effort of building a new life truly starts. It doesn't sound so bad when you think of it that way. The ship will carry you forward whether you hurry or not. All you have to do for now is eat, sleep, and let time pass. The stairwell down to F deck is already crowded when you reach it. Bodies press close in the narrow space. People moving carefully in both directions, up and down, step by step. Some are coming back from breakfast, their faces calmer, fuller somehow. Others, like you, are heading down, pulled by hunger and routine. You stay close behind Patrick, watching the back of his coat, afraid of losing him in the shuffle. This ship is a maze of corridors and staircases, and getting separated could mean missing the meal altogether. Your stomach reminds you of that, tightening and rumbling with increasing insistence. Near the bottom of the stairs, someone comes up faster than expected and you nearly collide. The man steps aside just in time. "Watch yourself there," he says, not unkindly. Then he looks again and something shifts in his face. "Patrick," he says. "Patrick Brennan?" Your cousin freezes. His eyes widen, then brighten. "Seamus," he breathes. "Seamus O'Brien." The two men grab each other's arms, laughing, grinning like fools who have forgotten where they are. For a moment, the crowded stairwell fades away around them. You stand there, slightly to the side, watching a reunion you don't understand yet. You've never seen this Seamus before, but it's clear Patrick knows him well. Childhood friends, it turns out. They grew up in neighbouring townlands before Seamus's family moved away to Gway. "I didn't know you were on this ship," Patrick says, still smiling. "Same to you. When did you board?" "Queenstown. Yesterday." "Ah. We came on at Southampton. Been aboard 2 days now." Seamus finally notices you standing there, unsure where to put yourself. "And who's this then?" he asks. "My cousin Selian," Patrick says. "He's coming with me to Boston." You shake hands. Seamus's grip is strong and warm, the grip of someone used to work and open air. His face is easy, honest, the kind of face you trust without knowing why. You've known him barely half a minute, and already he feels familiar. "Boston, is it?" he says. "We're bound for New York ourselves. My sister's there already. Sent us the money for the crossing." He gestures vaguely upward, toward the upper decks. "I'm bunked forward with the other men, 8 of us in one cabin, all strangers except my brother. But it's not bad. Clean, food's good. 8 in one cabin, you repeat." Seamus shrugs. "Better than a dormitory. Better than the ship we nearly booked. That one had all of steerage in a single room, sleeping on shelves, like cargo. This here," he spreads his hands slightly. "This is luxury, I'm telling you. He's right, you know. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. The old immigrant ships from famine years past. The coffin ships, some called them. People packed so tightly they could hardly breathe. Disease running through the decks unchecked. Bodies carried up and thrown into the sea when there was nothing else to be done. Compared to that, Titanic's third class feels almost grand. Wide corridors, real bunks, proper meals, a palace in its own way. Seamus says he has to meet someone up on deck but promises to find you later, talk properly, maybe even share a drink if they can manage to find one. Patrick watches him disappear back up the stairs, still smiling, then turns to you with the first truly relaxed expression you've seen since boarding. "Can you believe it?" he says softly. "Seamus O'Brien. 10 years. I haven't seen him in 10 years. Small world, you say. Or maybe not, you think as you start down the corridor again. Maybe it's a big world that's slowly growing smaller. All these people from all these places, funneling onto ships like this one, all moving toward the same imagined future. Bound to run into familiar faces sooner or later. The dining saloon lies straight ahead now. You smell it before you see it. Warm bread, porridge, something faintly meaty. Breakfast. Your stomach growls loudly enough that Patrick hears it and laughs. "Come on then," he says. "Let's eat." You follow him through the doors and into the low roar of sound made by 700 people, all beginning their day at once. Voices overlap, chairs scrape, tin plates clatter. The journey continues, even here. The ocean itself is invisible from this deep inside the ship, but you feel it everywhere, in the gentle sway underfoot, in the faint creak of metal and wood. Somewhere far ahead, still impossibly distant, America waits. Your sister waits. Your future waits. But right now, breakfast waits. And for the moment, that is enough. The bugle call that summoned you here still echoes faintly in your memory. Bright and brassy, cutting cleanly through the corridors. You'll hear it 3 times a day for the next 5 days. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. The rhythm of shipboard life measured not in hours but in meals and the quiet stretches between them. You find an empty seat at one of the long wooden tables. A stranger sits across from you, an older man with a weathered face and calm, kind eyes. He nods once in greeting but doesn't speak. Later, you'll learn he's Finnish, doesn't know much English. For now, a smile is enough. You smile back. That's what you do on a ship like this, surrounded by strangers, sharing tables and corridors and thin walls and borrowed air. You smile, you nod, you make space. You're all in the same boat. Literally. 700 of you crammed into the lower decks of the largest ship ever built, all quietly hoping for something better on the far side of the ocean. The first morning of your new life is just beginning. The dining saloon is bigger than your church back home. That's the first thing that strikes you when you really look around. The sheer size of it. You've never been in a room this large that wasn't a cathedral or a marketplace. And this one is buried deep inside a ship, below the waterline, hidden within the steel belly of this floating city. Long tables stretch from one end of the room to the other, each seating 20 people or more. The chairs are loose, not bolted down, which surprises you at first. Then you understand. People need to move, to slide in, to stand, to make room for the constant flow of bodies. Because the flow never really stops. 700 passengers, a room that holds maybe 400 at a time. They eat in sittings, first sitting, second sitting. You're in the first, which means fresh bread, hot porridge, food that hasn't yet been picked over by tired hands. A watertight bulkhead divides the room down the middle. One of those heavy doors meant to seal shut if the sea ever gets inside. It's strange, eating breakfast beside a reminder that things can go wrong, that steel and certainty can fail. But you don't dwell on it. The smell of food pulls your thoughts back where they belong. At the far end of the room, near the wall, you notice something unusual. At the far end of the room sits a single table, smaller than all the others, placed directly against the bulkhead. It faces the steel wall instead of opening out into the dining saloon. 2 chairs only, both of them pointed straight at painted metal. Someone nearby calls it Table 17. Later, Nora will laugh and tell you it's known as the antisocial table, for the ones who can't stand company. You try to imagine crossing the Atlantic with your nose barely 2 feet from a wall, meal after meal, day after day. Still, someone must choose it. Someone must prefer silence to conversation. You can almost understand that. Almost. There are moments on this ship when the noise feels heavy, like a physical thing pressing down on you. 700 voices layered together. Footsteps, laughter, crying babies, the scrape of chairs and the constant undertone of machinery. Sometimes it feels as though it might crush you. Sometimes you'd give anything for a quiet corner where nobody expects you to speak or smile or explain yourself. But not at breakfast. At breakfast, you want to be surrounded by life. The walls of the dining saloon are bare steel, painted a clean white. You can see the rivets clearly, the seams, the beams that hold everything together. It's not decorated the way you imagine first class must be, with polished wood and gleaming fixtures and soft light, but it isn't ugly either. There's something honest about it, something that says this is a ship. We're not pretending it's anything else. And yet we've made it as comfortable as we can. Posters hang along the walls, advertising other ships, White Star Line vessels mostly. The Olympic, Titanic's sister ship, nearly identical in design. There are others too, Holland America, Atlantic Transport Line, which confuses you until someone explains. They're all owned by the same company. Controlled by a single American millionaire named Morgan, who tried to dominate the North Atlantic shipping trade. It didn't quite work the way he planned, but that's a story for another time. Right now, the only story that matters is the one arriving on a steward's tray. You and Patrick find seats at one of the long tables. The Finnish man from earlier ends up across from you again. He nods politely. Beside him sits a young Swedish couple who keep stealing glances at one another, smiling shyly, like newlyweds still surprised by their own happiness. An older woman joins you as well, traveling alone. She's from Gway, heading to Philadelphia to meet her son. Her name is Nora. She's probably around 50, though it's hard to say. Life marks people differently, depending on how heavy the years have been. Her face carries lines shaped by worry and work, but her eyes are bright, alert. Her smile comes easily. "First crossing?" she asks. You nod. "Third for me," she says calmly. Back and forth, back and forth. My Patrick went over 10 years ago, got himself settled, brought over his wife. Now it's my turn to see the grandchildren before I'm too old to make the trip. Third crossing. You try to imagine it. Once already feels like a miracle, once feels like more than enough. But people do this all the time. You begin to understand that this ocean isn't the edge of the world. It's just a very big stretch of water, crossed now by very good boats. People cross it the way they cross the Irish Sea. Not lightly, not without thought, but not as if everything ends on the far shore either. The steward arrives with breakfast. He wears a white jacket and a numbered badge on his arm. Official, proper. He carries a tray heavy with food, more food than you've seen in one place since Christmas dinner 2 years ago. Porridge comes first, big steaming bowls of thick oatmeal, with milk served alongside. You haven't had oatmeal like this since you were a child, when your grandmother made it special on feast days. At home it's thin and watery, stretched to feed as many mouths as possible. This is rich, creamy, filling. This, you think, must be what people mean when they say luxury. Then the eggs arrive, scrambled, soft, piled high like little yellow clouds. Back home, eggs are for selling. You keep chickens, yes, but the eggs go to market to buy flour and salt, and the things you can't grow yourself. Eating eggs for breakfast is what rich people do, or apparently, what third-class passengers on the Titanic do. Smoked herrings follow. You've never had them before. Patrick eyes them with suspicion. The Finnish man across from you lights up as if someone has handed him treasure. He says something happily in his own language and begins to eat with real pleasure, clearly at home with this food. Bread and butter come next, fresh bread. Not the hard travel loaves you packed for the journey. Soft, warm, still breathing steam when it's broken open. Real butter, not the margarine substitute you're used to. And marmalade, orange marmalade in little pots. You've seen it behind glass in shop windows but never tasted it. You spread some on your bread, take a bite, and close your eyes without meaning to. Sweet and bitter together. Bright, sharp. Nothing like anything you've eaten before. Good, isn't it? Nora says, laughing softly at your face. Wait till dinner. The plum pudding will really knock your socks off. There's tea, strong and hot. Coffee, too, for those who prefer it. You've had coffee a few times before. At the hotel in Cove where your father sometimes found work. It always tasted like burned earth to you, but plenty of people seem to love it. The Swedish couple across from you both drink it, adding sugar from a bowl in the center of the table. Sugar just sitting there, free. You add some to your tea, then a little more. It's the sweetest cup you've ever had, and you grin before you can stop yourself. This is third class, the cheapest ticket on the ship, and you're eating better than you have in months, maybe years. Around you the room hums with conversation in a dozen languages. English drifts past. Irish, something Nordic, perhaps Italian or Greek. The stewards move between tables like practiced dancers, balancing trays, refilling cups, answering questions with patient smiles. Not everyone knows what to do with the food. You watch a family at the next table poke suspiciously at the smoked herrings, the children prodding them as if they might suddenly move. The children at the next table watch their mother closely. At last she takes a careful bite of the smoked herring. She chews slowly, thoughtfully, as if weighing the decision. Then she nods. Just once. That's all the permission they need. The children follow her lead, tentative at first, then more confidently. First times everywhere. First time eating food like this. First time sitting in a room this large. First time being waited on by men in white jackets who call you sir, even though you're a 19-year-old farm boy with dirt still ground into the lines of your fingernails. A small printed card on the table catches your attention. It lists the day's meals in neat type. At the very bottom, in letters smaller than the rest, there's a notice. You read it twice to be sure you understand. Any complaint respecting the food supplied, want of attention, or incivility should be at once reported to the purser or chief steward. For purposes of identification, each steward wears a numbered badge on the arm. Incivility. You've never seen the word before, but you can guess at its meaning. They're promising to treat you with respect, even here in third class. They're saying that if someone is rude to you, you can report it and something will actually be done. That feels strange, almost unsettling. You're used to being at the bottom of things, the farmer's son, the Irish boy, the one who steps aside when someone more important needs to pass. And here is a ship promising in writing to be civil to you. Maybe it's just good business. Happy passengers write home. They tell their families. Third-class travelers talk to neighbors and cousins and friends. And if they say the Titanic treated them well, maybe those families book passage on White Star ships too, instead of Cunard or the German lines. The real money isn't in first class after all. It's in volume. Hundreds of immigrants crossing every week. But still, it feels like something new. The Swedish newlyweds introduce themselves as Eric and Ingrid. Their English is limited, but enough. Married 2 weeks ago. Heading to Minnesota, where Eric has family. He's a carpenter. She worked as a seamstress. They're young, perhaps younger than you, and so obviously in love that it almost aches to watch them. They sit shoulder to shoulder even though there's plenty of space on the bench. His hand keeps finding hers beneath the table. She laughs at everything he says, whether it's funny or not. The universal language of new love, spoken everywhere, no matter what words are used. Nora from Gway shares stories of her earlier crossings. The first was in 1892, on a ship she refuses to name. Dormitories, she says, shaking her head. Men and women and children all mixed together. No privacy, no decent food. You brought your own and prayed it lasted. I was sick the entire way. Swore I'd never do it again. But she did do it again, because family pulls you across oceans, whether you want to go or not. This ship, though, she says, gesturing around the dining saloon, this is something else entirely. I've got my own cabin, well, sharing with 3 other women, but still. A cabin. A door that closes, real beds, not wooden shelves, and someone brings me food, 3 times a day like I'm a lady of leisure. She laughs at the idea. A grandmother from Gway, treated like a lady of leisure. But she's right. This is different. This is better. You've heard the old stories too, from parents and grandparents. The coffin ships of the famine years where people died by the dozen and were cast into the sea without ceremony. The steerage decks on older vessels where immigrants were packed so tightly they could barely breathe. Captains who saw their human cargo as an inconvenience, or worse, as a source of disease. The Titanic isn't like that. White Star isn't like that. Somewhere along the way they figured out that treating people decently is good for business. Clean cabins, hot meals, stewards with numbered badges, a reputation that fills ships. Capitalism, your father would call it. The invisible hand of the market, improving things not out of kindness but out of profit. He's always been suspicious of it, raised on stories of landlords and bosses who took everything they could from working people. But maybe it doesn't matter why they treat you well. Maybe it only matters that they do. Breakfast slowly winds down, plates are cleared, cups collected, tables wiped clean for the next sitting. You're meant to leave now, to make room for the hundreds of passengers still waiting. The second sitting will get the same food, more or less, though perhaps a little less fresh, a little more picked over. You take your coat from one of the hooks along the wall. There's no cloakroom in third class, no special place to store your things. Just rows of simple hooks. Practical. Your coat hangs beside the Finnish man's heavy wool jacket and Nora's sensible shawl. Everyone's belongings mixed together. Lives overlapping inside this temporary floating community. As you make your way out, you pass the watertight bulkhead again, a massive steel wall with a door designed to seal shut if water ever gets inside. It divides the dining saloon into forward and aft, another reminder that you're on a ship, that all this warmth and routine exists inside a steel box floating over thousands of feet of cold, dark ocean. But you don't dwell on that. Nobody does. The ship is unsinkable, they say, the most advanced vessel ever built. Watertight compartments, double-bottom hull, every modern safety feature. You think about lunch instead. The menu card said rice soup, roast beef with brown gravy, boiled potatoes, sweet corn, plum pudding for dessert. Dessert. You're going to eat dessert today, in the middle of the Atlantic, on a ship that feeds you 3 times a day, calls you sir, and promises, on paper, to treat you with civility. Whatever happens in America, whatever struggles are waiting for you on the far side of the ocean, you know you're going to remember this moment. This exact feeling. Walking out of the dining saloon with a full stomach and a quiet warmth settled in your chest, knowing that lunch is only a few hours away. Dinner after that, 6 days of this, 6 days of being fed and sheltered and carried steadily toward whatever comes next. 6 days before the hard work begins again. You decide, without saying it out loud, that you're going to enjoy every single minute. Patrick walks beside you, looking better than he has since the moment you boarded. Food helps with seasickness, it seems, or maybe his body has finally found its balance. Either way, the greenish tint is gone from his face, and his steps are steadier now, more confident. So, he says, glancing around, what do you want to do now? It's a good question. You've got hours before lunch, hours where nothing is required of you, no work waiting, no chores, no fields to tend or animals to feed. The sheer abundance of free time feels strange, almost unsettling. Let's explore, you say at last. See what else this ship has. Because you know there's more. Common rooms, open decks, corridors and spaces you haven't seen yet. A whole floating world waiting to be discovered while the Atlantic slips quietly past beneath you. The day stretches ahead like a promise. Your first full day at sea. Your first real taste of the life you're sailing toward. Behind you, the dining saloon is already filling again. The next wave of hungry passengers takes their seats. Stewards move efficiently between tables, bringing fresh trays, fresh bread, fresh pots of tea. The cycle continues without pause. The morning keeps moving, and somewhere far ahead, invisible beyond the curve of the earth, America waits. You pause at the doorway and look back one last time. The room has already transformed. New faces now sit where you were sitting just minutes ago. New accents, new stories. A young mother settles her children onto the bench you just vacated, smoothing their hair, murmuring instructions. An elderly man in a worn but carefully pressed suit unfolds his napkin with quiet dignity. 2 young men who look like brothers argue good-naturedly in what sounds like Italian, their voices rising and falling in familiar rhythm. Each of them has a reason for being here. Each of them left something behind to chase something ahead. And for the next 6 days, you'll all share this ship, these corridors, these meals. The watertight door in the bulkhead stands open, allowing easy passage between the 2 halves of the room. Heavy hinges, solid steel, built to swing shut and seal tight if needed. You run your hand along the frame as you pass through, feeling the cold metal beneath your fingers, the precision of it. Everything on this ship is engineered, planned, calculated. The steel, the rivets, the carefully designed compartments that make it unsinkable, the scheduled meal times, the numbered steward badges, the printed menus with their promises of civility. Nothing is left to chance. It makes you feel safe, as if people much smarter than you have already thought through every possible problem, anticipated every failure, built layer upon layer of protection into the bones of this vessel. You're in good hands. 700 immigrants in 3rd class, thousands more above you, all carried by the most carefully designed ship the world has ever known. The corridor outside the dining saloon is crowded now, people moving in both directions. You step aside to let a steward pass, his arms full of clean linens. Somewhere behind you, a child laughs. Somewhere ahead, voices rise in song. Maybe someone practicing hymns, maybe someone just singing because they can. The ship hums with life, with movement, with hundreds of individual stories unfolding at the same time, overlapping and interweaving like threads in a vast tapestry. You're one of those threads now. Your story is woven into this floating city, at least for these 6 days. Whatever happens next, wherever you end up, you'll always be someone who crossed the Atlantic on the Titanic, someone who ate breakfast in this dining saloon, who walked these corridors, slept in these cabins, stood on these decks and watched the horizon for the first glimpse of a new world. It's not a small thing being part of history, even if you don't know it yet. Patrick tugs gently at your sleeve. "Come on," he says. "Let's go up. I want to see the sky." You nod. The sky sounds good. After the enclosed spaces of the lower decks, after the noise and the crowds and meals eaten in rooms without windows, open air feels like exactly what you need. You follow him toward the stairs. The steel walls vibrate faintly with the steady power of the engines far below, and then the day opens up. The sky hits you almost like a physical force. After hours underground, stepping onto the open deck feels like being born again. Wind rushes past your face. The sharp, clean smell of salt fills your lungs. Blue stretches out in every direction, sky meeting sea, in a line so distant it barely seems real. You stop at the top of the stairs and simply breathe. Patrick does the same beside you. Neither of you speaks. There's nothing to say. The Atlantic Ocean is in front of you, behind you, on every side. And for a long, quiet moment, that's all that exists. Just water, wind, the pale April sun doing its best to warm the air. Third class has more open deck space than you expected, especially at the stern. There's an area back here called the poop deck, which makes Patrick snicker when you say it out loud. It sounds like something a child would invent, but apparently it's the proper nautical term. The raised deck at the very back of the ship. Wooden benches line the railings, bolted firmly into place. Simple, practical seating where passengers can rest and watch the water churn and stretch endlessly behind them. The ship's wake stretches out behind you, a long white line etched into the deep blue water, pointing back toward everything you've left behind. Somewhere along that fading path is Ireland, your parents, your home, the fields and roads and rooms that shaped you. You let your eyes rest there for a moment, then gently turn away. Some things are better not stared at for too long. Instead, you explore. The stern deck is crowded with purpose-built equipment. Large electric cranes rise overhead, their metal arms frozen in place now, waiting for the next port where they'll swing into motion to load and unload cargo. Their shadows fall across the wooden planking in sharp, angular shapes that shift slowly as the ship moves. Cargo hatches break up the deck, heavy steel lids sealing the holds below if you lifted one. And you're fairly sure you're not meant to. You'd see a vertical shaft dropping 5 stories into the ship's belly, where trunks and crates and personal histories are stacked together in the dark. You don't touch anything. You just peer at the edges, taking it in. Everything here exists for a reason, nothing wasted, nothing purely decorative. Not back here in third class. The railing at the stern draws your attention. It's low, lower than you expected, maybe 3 feet high. You're not a tall man, but even so, you could tip over it without much effort. Back home, you worked on roofs with your father. Heights never bothered you much. But leaning forward now, looking down at the water foaming and racing beneath the ship, your stomach tightens in a way it never did on land. The sea is far below, cold, fast. You step back instinctively. Other passengers are out here enjoying the air. Mostly families, since this section of the ship is set aside for women and children. A group of youngsters races past you, shrieking with laughter, playing some improvised chasing game. Their voices carry brightly on the wind. Mothers sit on nearby benches calling out warnings. Don't run so fast, stay away from the edge. No one says the thing everyone is thinking, that a child could fit through the railing, that the gaps between the posts are wide enough, that one stumble, one moment of distraction could end terribly. But life is full of dangers like that. The river near your village has claimed children. Roads have crushed people beneath cartwheels. Factories chew up workers and spit them out broken. This railing is just another risk in a world built from risks. You find an empty bench and sit. Patrick joins you. The sun is pale but present, and with the wind blocked by the ship's structure, you can almost feel warm if you close your eyes and imagine it so. The ship moves beneath you. Below decks you barely noticed it, the engine's vibration smoothing everything out. Up here, in the open air, you feel the Titanic's true motion. Long, slow rolls from side to side, gentle pitching forward and back. The Atlantic swells lifting the hull, setting it down again, over and over, in a rhythm that feels almost like breathing. It's soothing, once you let yourself feel it, like being rocked in a cradle, like the ship is a living thing carrying you across the ocean on its broad steel back. Patrick seems to feel it too. The sickly colour doesn't return to his face. If anything, he looks better out here than he has since leaving Ireland. The fresh air, the steady horizon, the space after the cramped corridors below. I could stay here all day, he says. You could too, but you know there's more to see. Forward of the poop deck, one level down, lies the well deck. You can see it from where you sit. A wide open area behind the fourth funnel, dotted with benches and people moving slowly, passing the time. Beyond it, rising toward the bow, the higher decks step upward, and there, clearly visible, you catch sight of first-class passengers taking their own leisurely walks. They look different from this distance, smaller, more distant, and yet somehow more colourful. Women in bright dresses, hats carefully arranged. Men in well-cut suits, strolling along wide promenades. Their world is only a few hundred feet away, but it might as well be another planet. You don't feel bitter about it. Not really. They paid more. They get more. That's how the world works. You knew that long before you stepped onto this ship. Still, seeing it laid out so clearly is strange. The invisible lines that divide people. The physical barriers that keep classes apart. Up there, luxury beyond imagining. Down here, comfort without excess. And between them, steel and wood and the quiet agreement that everyone stays where they belong. You wonder, briefly, if any of them ever look down. If they see you and the other third-class passengers and wonder about your lives, your stories, your reasons for being here. Probably not. Why would they? To them, your cargo that happens to breathe, bodies being transported to fill factories and farms and cities, valuable in bulk, invisible as individuals, and that's fine, you don't need them to see you. You have your own life waiting, your own future to build. Let them keep their parlours and 10-course dinners and Turkish baths. You have a full stomach, a warm bed, a ticket across the ocean. That's enough. That's plenty. You and Patrick make your way down to the well deck. It's busier here, more sheltered from the wind. People stand in small groups, talking quietly, sharing stories, passing the long morning hours. You recognize faces from breakfast. The Finnish man leans against the railing, staring out at the sea with an expression you can't quite read. Nora from Gway sits on a bench with two other women, deep in conversation, their heads bent together like old friends already. The ship moves on, the water slides past, and the day, slow and open and full of time, continues. The ship's wake stretches out behind you, long and pale, like a white road laid carefully across the dark blue water. It points back toward everything you've left behind. Somewhere along that narrowing line is Ireland, your parents, your home, the fields and lanes and familiar sounds of a life that already feels farther away than it should. You look for a moment, then decide not to look for too long. Some things are easier to carry when you don't stare at them. Instead, you turn your attention to what's around you. The deck beneath your boots is busy and practical, cluttered with the tools and structures that keep a ship like this moving. Big electric cranes rise overhead, their steel arms frozen in place now that the loading is long finished. When the sun passes behind thin clouds, their shadows stretch across the wooden planking in sharp, angular shapes, shifting slowly as the ship moves. Heavy cargo hatches are set into the deck at regular intervals, each one sealed tight with thick lids. Beneath them are the holds, deep and dark, stacked with trunks and crates. If you lifted one of those lids and leaned over, you'd see a long shaft dropping down 5 stories into the belly of the ship. You don't lift any lids. You're not sure you're allowed to. You just peer at the edges, impressed by the solid construction, the careful fit of metal and wood. Everything here has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is decorative. At least not back here in third-class territory, where beauty comes second to function. Even so, there's something reassuring about it. This ship is built to work, built to last, built to get you where you're going. The railing at the stern draws your eye. It's lower than you expect. Very low, really. Barely 3 feet high. You're not a tall man, but even so you realize how easily someone could tip forward if they weren't careful. Back home you worked on roofs with your father, moving along narrow beams without fear. Heights never bothered you much, but when you step closer and look down over this railing, your stomach tightens in a way climbing never caused. The water is far below, cold, restless, moving fast. The churn and pull of it makes you uneasy. After a moment you step back from the edge. Other passengers are out here too, enjoying the open air. Mostly families, since this part of the ship is where women and children are quartered. A group of children runs past you, caught up in some chasing game, their boots thudding lightly against the deck. Their laughter cuts through the salt wind, sharp and bright. Mothers sit on nearby benches, watching closely, calling out reminders to slow down, to stay away from the railing. No one says the thing everyone is thinking, that a child could fit through those railings, that the gaps between the posts are wide enough for a small body, that one slip, one stumble, one moment of distraction could mean disaster. But then, life is full of things like that, dangers you learn to live with. The river near your village has drowned children. The roads have crushed men beneath cartwheels. The factories in the cities take workers in whole and return them bent and broken. This railing is just one more risk in a world made entirely of risks. You find a bench and sit down. Patrick joins you a moment later. The sun is weak, filtered through clouds, but with the wind blocked by the ship's superstructure, you can almost feel warm if you close your eyes and imagine it. The ship moves beneath you. Below decks you barely noticed it. Down there the constant vibration of the engines drowns out everything else. Up here, in the open air, you can feel the Titanic's true motion. Long, slow rolls from side to side. Gentle pitches forward and back. The Atlantic swells lift the hull and set it down again, over and over, in a steady rhythm that feels almost like breathing. Once you get used to it, it's soothing, like being rocked in a cradle, like the ship is a living thing carrying you across the water on its broad back. Patrick seems to feel it too. The green tinge hasn't returned to his face. If anything, he looks better out here than he has since leaving Ireland. The fresh air helps, the steady horizon, the sense of space after the cramped quarters below. I could stay here all day, he says. You believe him, you could too. But there's still more to see, more to explore while you have the chance. The well deck lies forward of the poop deck, one level down. You can see it from where you're sitting. A broad open space behind the fourth funnel, dotted with more benches and more passengers passing the time. Above it, on the higher decks toward the front of the ship, First-class passengers take their own gentle walks. From here they look smaller, more distant, but also more colourful. Women in bright dresses and elaborate hats, men in well-cut suits. They stroll along wide promenades, separate from you, living in a world that's only a few hundred feet away, but might as well be another planet. You don't feel bitter about it. Not really. They paid more. They get more. That's how the world works. You knew that long before you ever set foot on this ship. Still, there's something strange about seeing it laid out so clearly. The invisible lines that divide people, the steel doors and wooden barriers that keep the classes apart. Up there is luxury beyond imagining. Down here is comfort, simple and plain. And between the two, nothing but structure and the unspoken agreement that everyone will stay where they belong. You wonder, briefly, if any of them ever look down. If they see you and the other third-class passengers and wonder about your lives, your reasons for being here. Probably not. Why would they? To them, you're just part of the human cargo. Bodies being carried across the ocean to fill factories and farms and growing cities. Useful in numbers, invisible as individuals. That's fine. You don't need them to see you. You have your own life to live, your own future to build. Let them have their parlour suites and their long dinners and their Turkish baths. You have a full stomach, a warm bed, and a ticket to the other side of the world. That's enough. That's plenty. You and Patrick make your way down to the well deck. It's busier here and more sheltered from the wind. Small groups of people cluster together, talking quietly, passing the hours. You recognize a few faces from breakfast. The Finnish man is here again, leaning against the railing, staring out at the water with an expression you can't quite read. Nora from Galway sits on a bench with two other women, deep in conversation. And there's your cabin mate, Margaret, with her children. Little William marches back and forth nearby, pretending to be a sailor, his face set in exaggerated seriousness. Mary sits at her mother's feet, absorbed in whatever she's found on the deck, a short length of rope perhaps, or a lost button. Margaret looks up and waves when she sees you. "Getting some air?" she asks. You nod. "Needed to see the sky." She nods too, understanding. It's easy to forget there is one when you're down below. She tells you she brings the children up every few hours. They grow restless otherwise, trapped in the cabin. Daniel, her husband, isn't with them. He's forward, with the other men, in a different section of the ship. They might meet for meals if the sittings line up just right. They might pass each other on Scotland Road if they time their walks carefully. But for now, for these 6 days, they live apart. Man and wife, parents of the same children, sleeping hundreds of feet from each other, the things people endure for the chance at something better. Near the edge of the well deck, partly sheltered beneath an overhang, you notice something unexpected, a wheel, a ship's helm like the ones you've seen in pictures, but this one is mounted here, at the stern, on a raised platform surrounded by skylights set into the deck. Patrick lets out a low whistle. "Is that what I think it is?" You step closer. The wheel is connected to machinery below. You can see the shaft disappearing through the deck, and through the glass you glimpse a room full of equipment. The steering engine room. This must be a backup helm. "Docking bridge," a voice says behind you. You turn to see an older man, his face weathered, his hands thick with calluses. At first you think he's crew, but his clothes are too worn, too patched. He's a passenger, just like you. He tells you he worked ships for 30 years, before his back gave out. Now he's heading to Baltimore to live with his daughter. He explains how the wheel connects directly to the steering engines. No hydraulics, no telemotors. If the main controls failed, a pilot could bring her in from back here, as long as he could see where he was going. He points forward along the length of the ship, at the funnels and masts and bridge far ahead. 800 feet of steel and machinery. "You can't see everything from here," he says, "but you can see enough. Enough to clear a dock, enough to turn her in a tight harbour. He shakes his head in quiet admiration. They thought of everything when they built her. Every problem, every solution, redundancy on top of redundancy. Eventually he wanders off, still muttering to himself about steering systems. You stay behind, looking at the wheel. You reach out and touch it lightly. The wood is smooth beneath your fingers. Many hands have touched it before yours. Builders, crew, curious passengers. You imagine standing here, guiding the largest ship in the world, feeling her respond to your touch as you steer all that steel and steam and human life across the open ocean. It's only a fantasy. You'll never steer anything larger than a fishing boat, if that. But for a moment you let yourself pretend. The ship moves beneath you as you stand there. Not the quick, nervous rocking of a small boat, like the ones in Cork Harbour. This is different. Slow, massive, deliberate. Even the Atlantic can only nudge her. The posters said you'd barely feel the waves, and mostly that's true. But she still moves. Every ship does. The ocean doesn't care about human promises. It does what it wants, and everything floating on it must adapt. Your body is adapting. You don't think about it anymore. The way you shift your weight. The slight bend in your knees. It's automatic now. Like your muscles have learned a new language overnight. Patrick hasn't learned it yet. You can see it in his face, the way he braces himself against each roll. He'll get there. Another day or two. The day passes like that, wandering, sitting, watching the endless water slide past. At one point you return to the stern railing and look back at the wake again. The white road stretches away toward the horizon, toward Ireland, toward everything you left behind. If you squint, you can almost see it. The green hills, the stone walls, your mother standing in the doorway watching the road, the way she'll watch it every day until word comes that you're safe. You look away. Around noon, the bugle sounds for lunch. You and Patrick head back down to the dining saloon. Rice soup, roast beef, boiled potatoes. The food is still plentiful, still strange to receive without having earned it. The Finnish man sits at your table again. He smiles, still says nothing, but he passes the bread without being asked, and you pour his tea when the pot comes around. Small kindnesses, the quiet language of people who don't share words. After lunch there's more wandering, more time to let the hours drift by as the ship carries you steadily westward. One slow, gentle movement at a time. You find a covered area near the stern, where benches are arranged in neat rows, tucked safely beneath a roof that shields them from wind and rain. It seems like a sensible place, a place to sit when the weather turns, a place where children can still play even when the deck is slick and cold. Several people have already claimed their spots. Some are reading quietly. Others are talking in low voices. A few are simply sitting, hands folded, eyes unfocused, letting time pass. An old woman sits near the end of one bench, knitting steadily. Her needles click together in a soft, patient rhythm that somehow matches the movement of the ship. Stitch after stitch, row after row, as if she's been doing this her entire life. As if she'll keep doing it long after this voyage is over. Not far from her, a young man bends over a notebook, filling page after page with cramped, careful handwriting. Letters home, perhaps, or a diary, meant to hold every small detail of the journey. You think about your own mother. You promised you'd write, but you don't have paper. You don't have a pen. And even if you did, you're not sure what you'd say. That everything feels strange and wonderful and frightening all at once. That you don't know who you'll be by the time you reach the other side. Those aren't the kinds of things a mother wants to read. So instead, you sit. You lean back and look up at the sky. Thin clouds drift slowly overhead. The ship rolls gently beneath you. That same endless rocking you're beginning to recognize. Like a cradle. Like being held. You start to understand why sailors love the sea, despite everything it takes from them. There's something peaceful about being carried, about giving up control to something so much larger than yourself. You let your thoughts thin out until there's nothing left but the present moment. This deck, this bench, this pale April sun. Patrick falls asleep beside you. His head tips forward, then settles lightly against your shoulder. You don't move him. Let him rest. The seasickness drained more from him than he admits, and sleep is the best medicine for most things. You sit there together as the afternoon stretches on. The sun shifts across the sky, hidden behind its veil of cloud. The air grows a little colder as evening approaches. You know you'll have to go back inside soon. Back to the cabin, back to the corridors and the crowds and the thin walls that carry everyone's sounds and secrets. But not yet. Not quite yet. For now, you stay where you are and watch the horizon. Watch the endless water that separates your old life from your new one. Watch the sky slowly darken toward night. Tomorrow, you'll do this again. And the day after that. 4 more days of floating between worlds, suspended time, days when nothing is asked of you except to wait. Then America. Then the real work begins. But that's tomorrow's concern. Today you just breathe. The Atlantic stretches endlessly in every direction. Somewhere far ahead, still hidden beyond the curve of the earth, your future waits. Eventually the cold pushes you inside. April in the North Atlantic isn't winter exactly, but it isn't kind either. The wind slips through your coat, finding every place where the stitching has worn thin. Your fingers go numb. Your ears begin to ache. Patrick starts to shiver in a way that makes you uneasy. So you guide him back through the doors, down the stairs, and into the enclosed spaces of the sea deck. The air here is still and warm. It smells of pipe smoke and wool and too many people breathing the same shared air. It isn't fresh, but it is comfortable. You have to admit that. As your eyes adjust to the dimmer light and warmth seeps back into your hands, you realize the space is nicer than you expected. Much nicer. Near the stairs, there's a covered area, a kind of sheltered promenade with benches built into the walls. It's protected from the weather, but open enough that it doesn't feel cramped like the corridors below. People sit here in small groups, talking softly, reading, resting. It feels like the lobby of a hotel. Not a grand one, but a respectable one. The kind your family could never afford, but often walked past. Slowing down just a little, curious about what it might be like inside. Patrick finds a seat and sinks into it with a tired sigh. His face is pale again, from the cold this time, not sickness. You sit beside him and let the warmth work on both of you. From here you can see 2 doorways leading to larger rooms. The smoking room on one side, the general room on the other, separated by a bulkhead, each with its own purpose, its own crowd. I'm going to look around, you tell Patrick. He nods, already drifting off. The mix of fresh air and warmth has claimed him. You leave him there and walk toward the smoking room, curious about what waits inside. The moment you open the door, you think of a pub. That's the first thing that comes to mind. The room could have been lifted straight from Cork or Dublin. Wood-panelled walls, simple, sturdy furniture, a warmth that comes not just from heat, but from bodies and voices. Tobacco smoke hangs lightly in the air, softening the edges of everything. Men fill the room. Only men. This is their space, their retreat from the mixed company of the rest of the ship. They sit in small groups, talking, playing cards, nursing glasses of whiskey or porter. Some smoke cigarettes, others chew thoughtfully on pipes. A few work plugs of chewing tobacco, spitting into the brass spittoons set at regular intervals across the floor. The spittoons catch your eye. Little bowls of polished brass, positioned carefully, though the stained floor around them suggests they don't always succeed in their purpose. Some things, you suppose, can't be entirely contained. You find an empty seat near the wall and sit down. No one pays you much attention. You're just another young man among many, all heading somewhere, all leaving something behind. The wood paneling around you is plain but handsome. Not the ornate carving you imagine exists upstairs in first class, but solid and well made. Someone put thought into this room, chose materials meant to last, made it comfortable without excess. It feels steady, reliable, like the ship itself. It's the kind of craftsmanship your father would appreciate instantly if he ever saw it. The way the joints fit together without gaps, the way every surface has been sanded smooth by someone who cared enough to take their time. No shortcuts, no cheap materials hidden where no one would notice. You run your hands slowly along the arm of your chair. Good wood, oak most likely, solid and heavy, built to survive years of use by rough men with calloused hands and hard lives. Furniture meant to last, not just to look nice. The card game at the next table draws your attention. 5 men lean in close over a battered deck of cards. Coins sit piled in the center, a small tower of copper and silver. Poker, maybe, or some other game you don't recognize. They speak a mixture of English and something else. German, perhaps, or Dutch. The languages blend together, familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. One man has a thick mustache curled at the ends, waxed into careful points. He seems to be winning, judging by the growing pile of coins in front of him. The others grumble good-naturedly, but keep playing. A steward appears quietly from a doorway you hadn't noticed before, probably leading to a small pantry at the back. He carries a tray with glasses and bottles and moves through the room with practiced ease. When he reaches your corner, he pauses. "Something to drink, sir?" "Sir, there's that word again, spoken to you even though you're clearly nobody important. What do you have?" "Whiskey, porter, stout, ale, tea if you prefer." You order a porter and take a coin from your pocket. The steward accepts it without comment and returns a moment later with a glass of dark liquid. You take a sip. It's good. Better than what you're used to back home. Smoother, less bitter. You drink it slowly, making it last. Around you, conversations rise and fall like waves. You catch pieces as they drift past. A man from Liverpool talking about joining his brother in Chicago. A Scandinavian farmer who sold everything he owned for this passage, staking his entire future on a piece of land in Minnesota. 2 Irish men from Kerry arguing cheerfully about hurling, a sport you know nothing about despite sharing a country with them. The room feels alive in a way the cabins and corridors don't. Down there, everyone is just passing through. Here, people have paused, settled, made themselves at home, at least for a little while. The tobacco smoke, the quiet clink of glasses, the low murmur of voices combine into something almost domestic, almost like a sitting room back home, if home were full of men from every corner of Europe. You finish your porter and consider ordering another. But money is tight. Every coin you spend here is a coin you won't have in America. You don't know how long it will take to find work, how many weeks you might need to stretch your savings before the first pay arrives. So you leave the empty glass on the table and stand. You nod once toward the card players who don't notice you at all, and step back through the door into the covered promenade. Patrick is still asleep, slumped against the wall, mouth slightly open, breathing slow and even. You leave him there and turn toward the general room on the other side. It's similar in shape to the smoking room, but the atmosphere is completely different. Brighter, for one thing. Portholes line the walls, letting in the grey afternoon light. Quieter too, despite having more people inside. Families fill this space. Women with children. Older people who don't want to breathe tobacco smoke for hours. The furniture is simpler. Wooden benches and plain chairs. No upholstery. Clean, sturdy, arranged in small clusters that invite conversation. People have claimed their places. A mother nurses an infant in one corner, a shawl drawn around her shoulders. Children sit on the floor playing some game with string you vaguely remember from your own childhood. Old women knit. Old men doze, heads tipped back, hands folded in their laps. The air smells different here. Cleaner. No smoke. Just wool, soap, and the faint milky scent of babies. It feels like a domestic space. Despite being in the middle of the ocean, the women have made it their own. Established routines, staked out territories. You can tell who sits where by the worn spots on the benches, the way people drift automatically to familiar seats. Near the back, a door is marked crew only. It leads to the steering engine room someone told you earlier, the machinery that actually turns the rudder, that decides where this enormous ship goes. All that power hidden behind a plain wooden door, while families sit and chat just a few feet away. Margaret is here with her children. She's talking to another woman, a young mother with twins who keep breaking free to wrestle and shout until they're pulled apart again. Margaret sees you and gives a quick wave. You wave back, but don't interrupt. She's leaning forward, speaking intently. Women's business, most likely. The things they talk about when men aren't around. You don't linger. Instead, you find a seat by one of the portholes and look out at the water. The light has changed. Afternoon slipping toward evening. The sun is hidden behind clouds, but its pale glow still spreads across the waves. From here, framed by the round glass, the ocean looks smaller somehow, like a picture instead of a world you're floating in. You think of your mother. She'll be worried by now. It's been 3 days since you left Cork. 3 days since you hugged her at the station and promised to write as soon as you reached New York. 3 days of her not knowing exactly where you are, whether the ship is sailing smoothly, whether you're eating enough, sleeping enough, staying warm. Mothers worry. That's what they do. Your father probably isn't worried. He's a practical man. Once something is done, it's done. No use fretting over what can't be changed. He'll be working the farm the same as always, feeding the animals, mending fences, doing the 1,000 small tasks that keep a poor Irish family going from one season to the next. The ship rolls gently beneath you as you sit there, carrying you farther from all of that with every quiet mile. He didn't cry when you left, neither did you. There was no scene, no lingering embrace, no last-minute rush of words that suddenly felt important. Just a handshake, firm and familiar, the way men in your family say goodbye. He told you to keep your head down, to work hard, to do what needed doing. Practical advice, the kind that fits easily into a pocket and doesn't weigh you down. You nodded. He nodded back. And then you turned and walked away toward the train, toward the ship, toward whatever comes next. Sometimes you wonder if he regrets that moment now. If, standing in the yard alone after you were gone, he wished he'd said more, or if he's exactly the same as ever, steady and unmoved, not wasting energy on feelings that wouldn't change the outcome anyway. You suspect it's the second. Some people are built that way, solid, quiet, reliable as stone walls. You'll write to them when you reach America, when you have an address to put on the envelope, a place they can picture, a place from which a reply might actually find you. Right now, a letter would just disappear into uncertainty. You can't receive mail on a moving ship, so for now you sit. You watch the water framed by the porthole. You let your thoughts drift where they want to go. As evening approaches, the room slowly fills. Families come in from the cold decks, cheeks flushed, coats damp with sea air. Children run underfoot, laughing, colliding, getting gently scolded. The noise level rises, but it's an easy noise. The sound of people living their lives, talking, laughing, arguing, existing together in this floating pause between worlds. Nora from Gway appears and spots you by the porthole. She lowers herself into the chair beside you with a soft sigh, the sound of a woman who's been on her feet all day. Long day, she says. They're all long days, you reply. She laughs quietly. On a ship, yes. Nothing to do but wait. I'm not used to it, she admits. Back home there's always work. Always something needs doing. Here I feel useless. You understand exactly what she means. Your hands keep expecting tools. Your body keeps waiting for the rhythm of labor that shaped every day of your life. This idleness feels wrong somehow, unearned. It's only 6 days, you say, then back to work. God willing, she says, crossing herself automatically. My Patrick says there's plenty in Philadelphia, factory work, domestic service. But you never know until you're there. You don't. That's the gamble all of you are making. Selling what little you have, leaving everyone you know, crossing an ocean on the promise that the other side will be better. Maybe it will be, probably it will. But no one can say for certain. The bugle sounds for dinner, third sitting apparently. The signal ripples through the space, and people begin to gather their things. Children are rounded up, shawls adjusted, coats buttoned. You and Nora walk together toward the dining saloon. Patrick joins you along the way, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looks better. The rest has done him good. Dinner is exactly what the menu promised. Cold meats and cheese, pickles sharp enough to make your mouth pucker, fresh bread with butter, stewed figs and rice soft and sweet, something called cabin biscuits, which turn out to be hard, dry crackers meant to be dipped in tea until they soften just enough. You learn the trick quickly. The cheese is English cheddar, crumbly and sharp. The figs taste faintly of cinnamon, rich enough to feel like dessert. You eat slowly. There's no rush. The stewards keep the tea coming, pot after pot. The dining saloon hums with conversation in a dozen languages. Behind you, a group of young men sing something in Swedish. Ahead, 2 elderly women argue in what might be Polish. The sound blends together, washing over you like distant music. The Finnish man is at your table again. By now you think of him as a permanent feature of this place. He still doesn't speak English, but it doesn't matter. You communicate with nods and smiles and small gestures. He shows you the exact timing for dipping the cabin biscuits. Too short and they're still hard. Too long and they dissolve into nothing. You follow his example and get it just right. After dinner, tiredness settles over you. The day was longer than it felt. All the walking, the cold air, the constant motion. Your body wants sleep. Back in the cabin, you wash your face in the basin. The water is cold as it always is, but clean. You splash it over your cheeks and feel your skin tighten. Refreshing, a small ritual to close the day. You change into your night clothes, such as they are. The same shirt you wore yesterday, the wool trousers you'll pull on again in the morning. Traveling light means repetition, wearing things until they smell and then wearing them anyway because there's no alternative. You climb into your bunk and lie there in the darkness. The engines rumble far below. The hull creaks and groans as it flexes against the waves. Voices drift through the thin walls. Someone snores. Someone prays in a low, steady murmur. Margaret and her children settle in nearby. The baby fusses, then quiets. Little William asks for a story, and Margaret tells one. A tale about a brave rabbit and a clever fox. Her voice is soft and warm. The ship rocks gently, back and forth, like a cradle, like your mother's arms when you were small. Your eyes close without effort. Tomorrow will be another day like this one. Meals, wandering, waiting, the slow patience of ocean travel. You're getting used to it now. The rhythm of shipboard life, the way time stretches and softens. The strange closeness of living among strangers. The Atlantic carries you onward, and for now that's all you need to know. 4 more days, then New York, then everything changes. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight you're just going to sleep. The steady vibration of the hull settles into your bones, becomes something like a lullaby. A deep, constant hum that never quite stops, never quite changes. And gradually, gently, consciousness loosens its grip. Thoughts drift apart, images blur. Sleep takes you without effort. After a while, the days begin to blur together. That's the strange thing about life at sea. Each day is different, and each day is exactly the same. You wake, you eat breakfast, you walk the decks or sit in the common rooms. You eat lunch, you walk some more. You eat dinner, you sleep. Then you do it all again. By the third day, you've stopped counting hours. By the fourth, you've almost forgotten what land looks like. The ocean becomes your whole world. Steel corridors, rocking decks, the endless horizon that never seems to draw closer, no matter how long you stare at it. The ship is no longer something you're riding. It's the place where you live now. Your body has adjusted to the motion. That constant, gentle sway that once made Padrick green around the gills feels natural now. Normal. You hardly notice it during the day. At night, you welcome it. The rocking helps you fall asleep faster than you ever did on land. The other passengers have become familiar, if not quite friends. You don't know most of their names, but you recognize faces, habits, patterns. The Finnish man who always sits in the same place at meals. Nora from Gway, endlessly talking about her grandchildren. The Swedish newlyweds who still can't keep their hands to themselves. Even the stewards have become predictable. You know which ones smile and which don't. Which refill your tea without being asked and which make you wait. Small differences that mean nothing and everything. When you're all sealed inside the same floating box day after day, Saturday passes quietly. More walking, more eating, more waiting. The weather turns colder. On the open decks you can see your breath now. Little white clouds that appear and vanish almost instantly. The sun shines, but it doesn't warm anything. April in the North Atlantic. Winter hasn't quite let go. People talk about the cold everywhere. In the smoking room, in the general room, on the decks. Old sailors among the passengers nod knowingly and mutter about ice. Bergs, floes, pack ice drifting down from the Arctic. Ships see them all the time this time of year, they say. You don't think much about it. Ice is the captain's problem, not yours. He knows these waters. He knows his ship. Let him worry about what's floating out there in the dark. Sunday morning dawns clear and brighter, and colder still. April 14th, 5 days since you boarded at Queenstown. One more day, maybe two, before New York. The end feels close now. Close enough to taste. After breakfast, word spreads through third class. Mass is being held. 2 priests from second class are conducting services. One in English and French. One in German and Hungarian. Catholics are invited. You go. Of course you go. Your mother would never forgive you if she found out you were on a ship with priests and didn't take communion. And besides, it feels right. One last mass before everything changes, one last moment, anchored to the faith that shaped your whole life before stepping into a country built by Protestants. The service is held in a common room. No pews, no altar, no stained glass, just a room full of people standing and kneeling on the hard floor, while Father Biles leads them through the familiar rhythms of the liturgy. He's English, middle-aged, balding, with a gentle voice that carries better than you'd expect. He speaks in Latin first, then English, then French, repeating the important parts so everyone can follow. The German priest, Father Peruschitz, handles the other languages. His sermon is about faith, about trusting God's plan even when the path ahead isn't clear, about the courage it takes to leave everything familiar and step into the unknown. He might be talking about Abraham, about the Israelites, about wanderers in Scripture, but everyone knows he's really talking about you. All of you. You kneel when you're meant to kneel. Stand when you're meant to stand. Speak the responses you've known since before you could read. The Lord be with you, and with your spirit. The words come automatically, like breathing. Around you, Irish, and Italian, and Polish, and German voices blend together. Different languages, different backgrounds, different reasons for being on this ship, but the same prayers, the same rituals, the same quiet hope. You think of your mother again. She's at Mass right now too. Sunday morning in Cork, kneeling on the same hard wooden bench she's knelt on since she was a girl, praying for her son somewhere out on the ocean. The thought tightens your chest. Homesickness rises sharp and sudden. You push it down, there's no use for it, you made your choice. Now you live with it. After the final blessing, people scatter back to their routines. The dining saloon, the decks, the common rooms. You spend the afternoon in the general room, watching life unfold. Children play, women talk, old men doze in corners. Someone starts a card game at one of the tables. You don't know the rules, but you watch anyway. Time passes. Margaret appears with her children. Little William is restless, bouncing from bench to bench, testing every boundary. His mother's patience wears thin, but she keeps her voice low. This is life now, all of you contained together, learning how to coexist. The ship continues on, steady, relentless, carrying you westward while the ocean slides past beneath the hull. And for now, that's enough. Mary is quieter. She stays close to her mother, content to sit on the floor at Margaret's feet, turning the same short length of rope over and over in her hands. She's had it since the first day you boarded, and somehow it never seems to lose its interest. She doesn't need much, just something familiar to hold on to. He's going stir-crazy, Margaret says softly, nodding toward William. He's shifting from foot to foot, climbing onto benches, sliding back down again, unable to stay still for more than a few seconds. Needs to run. There's no space for it down here. You understand immediately. A growing boy trapped inside steel walls. Too much energy, nowhere to put it. You offer to take him up on deck. Let him burn some of it off. Margaret accepts with a look of relief that borders on gratitude. And so you spend the next hour outside, chasing William up and down the well deck while he reinvents himself again and again. A pirate 1 minute, a soldier the next, then a whale, arms flung wide as he charges past you, making noises only children can make without embarrassment. The cold bites hard. It creeps into your ears, numbs your fingers, settles into your joints. But William doesn't seem to notice at all. He runs until his cheeks are bright red, until his breath comes in sharp little gasps, and then he runs some more. Children are different. Either they don't feel the cold the way adults do, or they simply don't care. By the time you bring him back inside, he's spent, calm, limp with exhaustion, ready for sleep at last. Margaret thanks you quietly. Her eyes say more than her words ever could. Dinner comes and goes much like every other meal. Cold meat and cheese, bread and butter, gruel, cabin biscuits. You eat because it's time to eat, not because you're hungry. The taste barely registers. The food has become routine, part of the background of ship life. You've stopped marveling at the abundance, stopped being surprised by it. It's just there now, expected. After dinner, something shifts. It starts in the general room. Someone has a fiddle. Someone else pulls out a whistle. A third person sits at the upright piano tucked into the corner, runs their fingers lightly across the keys, and begins to play. Music fills the space. Not the polished, careful music you imagine drifting through first class. This is rougher, louder, folk tunes carried across oceans in memory rather than ink. Songs learned at knees and kitchen tables, passed down the way names are passed down. People begin to clap, to tap their feet. And then, without anyone announcing it, they begin to dance. An Irish couple steps forward first, spinning into a jig they've probably danced 100 times back home. Others follow. Italians, Scandinavians, Germans, each bringing their own steps, their own rhythms, their own sense of movement. No rules, no structure, just bodies moving where there's space. You watch from the edge of the room, grinning like a fool. This is nothing like the stiff dances you've heard about upstairs. No white gloves, no formal partners, no careful distance. This is chaos, beautiful, joyful chaos. The room grows hot. It smells of sweat and wool and spilled beer. Bodies press close. Someone steps on your foot and doesn't apologize. There's no point. Everyone is stepping on everyone. 70 people dancing in a space meant for 40, and still no one complains. The music is too good. The moment too necessary after days of waiting and walking and doing nothing at all. The piano player shifts into something faster. The fiddler follows. And then suddenly Eugene Daly is there, pushing through the crowd. You recognize him instantly. The piper from the dock at Queenstown. The one who played as Ireland slipped away behind you. He'd been crying then. He's not crying now. Now he's grinning, face flushed, pipes tucked under his arm. His fingers find the chanter. He squeezes the bag. The Julian pipes come alive. The sound cuts straight through you, high and keening, ancient and alive. It doesn't matter what tune he's playing. The sound itself is enough. The sound of home, of everything you left behind. But tonight, it isn't morning music. Tonight it's jigs and reels. Music meant for feet and laughter and motion. A girl appears beside you, young, pretty, cheeks flushed from dancing. Swedish or Norwegian maybe. It's hard to tell. Dance, she says, the word barely audible over the music. You should say no, you know you should. You're a terrible dancer, you'll step on her feet, make a fool of yourself. But her smile is wide and her eyes are bright, and you're in the middle of the ocean. Who's going to judge you? So you dance. It's awkward at first. Neither of you knows the steps. You're both guessing, adjusting, trying not to crash into the spinning couple beside you. But after a minute, it stops mattering. The music takes over. Your body finds its own rhythm. You're not dancing well, but you are dancing. And that's enough. She laughs. You laugh. Everyone seems to be laughing. The room fills completely now. Word has spread. People pour in from the smoking room, from cabins, from the decks where they'd been standing under the stars. Someone produces whiskey. Someone else uncorks a bottle of wine. Glasses are filled, emptied, filled again. The dancing grows wilder, the music louder. Somewhere above, the postal clerks are probably cursing every musician in steerage. Down here, nobody cares. At some point, the Italians take over. A group of young men from Naples or Palermo or somewhere south surge into the center, dancing something wild and precise all at once. Fast feet, sharp movements, shouts and claps that come without warning. Everyone else backs away, forming a rough circle, cheering them on. Strange dance, someone murmurs beside you. Amy Stanley, you think, the English girl travelling alone. But a good one, you say. She nods, clapping along as the Italians finish with a dramatic flourish, bows and laughter and applause filling the room. Applause breaks out, loud and wholehearted, filling the room until it echoes off the steel walls. Before it fully dies down, the Irish take the floor again. The fiddle and the pipes leap into something impossibly fast, notes tumbling over one another, chasing each other forward. Just listening makes your head spin. You retreat to the wall, pressing your back against the cool metal, drawing deep breaths. Your legs ache now. Your lungs burn. Sweat clings to your skin beneath layers of wool. And yet you're smiling so hard your face hurts. This feeling is what you came for. Not the ship itself, not even America really. This moment, being surrounded by strangers who feel somehow like family. All of you dancing and singing and celebrating because tomorrow is uncertain, and tonight is here. Padre finds you there. He's been dancing too, it's obvious. His hair is a mess, his shirt half untucked, his face flushed. He's holding a cup of something that might be whiskey, or might be tea. It's hard to tell in this light. Hell of a night, he says. Hell of a night, you answer. You stand together, cousins almost, brothers in everything that matters, watching the party swirl around you. Music and laughter, boots stamping on the floor, faces lit by lamplight, glowing with joy and drink and the simple pleasure of being alive. Outside, beyond the steel walls and the sealed doors and the round portholes, The Atlantic rolls on, dark, cold. Somewhere out there, ice drifts silently. The ship drives forward at full speed, mile after mile sliding beneath her hull. But you don't know that. None of you do. All you know is this room, this sound, this moment. Nora from Galway grabs your hand suddenly and pulls you back into the crowd. She's quicker than you expect, feet moving in patterns that must have been old when her grandmother was young. She spins you around, laughing at your clumsiness, and for a few moments you're a child again, dancing at a village wedding while the adults drink and the musicians play until morning. Time slips by unnoticed. The clock edges toward 11, then slides past it. Slowly people begin to leave, not all at once. Parents gather sleepy children. Older folks ease away, joints stiff, smiles lingering. Couples drift off, seeking quieter corners. The crowd thins, but the heart of it remains. The musicians keep playing. The dancers keep moving. You know you should go to bed. Tomorrow you'll feel this in every muscle. There's still another full day at sea ahead, maybe two, depending on speed and weather, and 100 other things you don't understand. But you stay. Just a little longer. Just one more song. Daniel Buckley, a lad from King Williamstown you've spoken to once or twice, spins past with a girl on his arm. He catches your eye and grins. Grand time, he shouts over the music. It is. Every kind of instrument seems to be on board. The fiddle and the pipes, of course. A tin whistle somewhere near the back. A board run tapping out the steady heartbeat beneath it all. And the piano, always the piano, holding the music together when everything else threatens to fly apart. You lean against the wall again and let it wash over you. Your legs are tired, but your heart feels full. This is what people mean when they talk about community. Not neighbors you nod to in passing, not faces you see once a week at church, but strangers who become family in the space of a few songs, bound together by rhythm and joy, and the shared understanding that tonight matters. Outside, the temperature has dropped further. You can feel it even in here now, a faint chill seeping through the walls. Someone mentions the stars, bright and sharp and endless, the kind of sky you only see when the night is perfectly clear. Cold and beautiful, they say. You should go to bed, you know that. Tomorrow will come quickly, but still you stay. Just one more song. The pipes wail, the fiddle sings, and then you feel it before you understand it. A shudder runs through the ship, a grinding vibration that seems to come from everywhere at once, as if something enormous has scraped along the hull, as if the world tilted just slightly and then settled back into place. The music collapses, not cleanly, raggedly. The fiddle trails off, the pipes sag with a soft wheeze. The piano player lifts his hands from the keys and looks around confused. For a moment, there is silence. People listen. They wait. Nothing else happens. What was that? Someone asks. No one answers. No one knows. The engines keep their steady hum. The floor remains level. The lights stay on. The world does not end. Nervous laughter breaks out. Someone jokes about hitting a whale. Someone else suggests maybe another ship brushed past. Slowly, the tension loosens. Conversation resumes, quieter now, edged with uncertainty. Eugene Daly squeezes the bag of his pipes again. He starts a tune, slower this time, softer. The music returns, but the dancing doesn't. People drift toward the walls, toward the portholes, peering into darkness that gives nothing back. You glance at your pocket watch. 20 minutes to midnight. April 14th is nearly over. One more day, you think. One more day and then New York. Patrick steps up beside you. In the lamplight, his face looks pale. Did you feel that? Patrick asks quietly. Everyone felt it. What do you think it was? You shake your head. Don't know, probably nothing. That's what you say. But your heart is beating faster than it should. Too fast. There was something about that sound, about the way the vibration traveled through the floor and up your bones. It didn't feel like a bump. It didn't feel like waves. It felt wrong. like something tearing, like something breaking where it shouldn't. A steward pushes through the crowd. He's young, wearing a white jacket, a numbered badge stitched neatly to his sleeve. His face is calm, practiced, the kind of calm that's been trained into him. He raises his voice just enough to be heard. Nothing to worry about, ladies and gentlemen. Just a minor incident. Please continue enjoying your evening. Someone asks what kind of incident. The steward smiles, a small reassuring smile, and shrugs. The captain is looking into it, he says. Nothing to concern yourselves with. Everything is under control. People want to believe him. You can see it immediately, relief softening faces, shoulders relaxing. They've been told this ship is unsinkable, the safest ship ever built. If the crew says everything is fine, then it must be fine. You want to believe him too. It would be easier. Go back to the music. Go back to the warmth and the noise and the forgetting. You're just a farm boy from Cork. What do you know about ships and steel and the North Atlantic at night? But your body doesn't agree. Your palms are damp. Your shoulders won't relax. Your ears keep straining, waiting for another sound, another shudder, another sign that something has changed. The party continues, but it's different now, quieter. People keep glancing toward the portholes. Conversations pause mid-sentence. The joy from earlier has thinned, replaced by something tighter, something watchful. You decide to go up on deck. Just to look, just to see. Patrick comes with you. A few others do too. You climb the stairs together, leaving the lamplight behind. The cold hits you the moment the door opens, sharper than before. Your breath clouds instantly. The sky above is black and full of stars, hard and brilliant without a moon. The ocean is calm, too calm, flat as glass, stretching endlessly in every direction. And there, on the starboard side, you see it. Ice. Not much. Small chunks scattered across the deck, white and glittering in the starlight. Someone must have brought them up from somewhere. A few men are kicking them around, laughing, pretending to play football. Where'd this come from? Patrick asks. You don't answer. You're looking out over the rail. Far behind the ship now, just visible against the darkness, is a shape. A pale mass rising out of the Black Sea. Huge, silent. A mountain drifting away as the Titanic steams on. An iceberg. Your stomach drops. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. Ships torn open by ice that hides most of itself beneath the water. Whole vessels lost without warning. But the ship is still moving. The engines still hum. No alarms. No shouting. The men on deck are still laughing. If something were really wrong, surely the ship would have stopped. Surely someone would be running. Surely the crew would be shouting orders. You stand at the rail and watch the iceberg fade into darkness. Your hands are shaking. Maybe it's just the cold. Maybe it's the whiskey leaving your system. Maybe everything really is fine. We should go back inside, Patrick says. His teeth are chattering now. Freezing out here. You nod. But you don't move. Something holds you there. An instinct you don't have words for. The ship feels different, slightly off. Or maybe that's your imagination, searching for danger because you know what you saw. A steward steps onto the deck, older this time. His face is serious, his voice firm. Everyone, please return to your cabins. Put on your life belts as a precaution. This is just a drill. Nothing to worry about. A drill. At midnight, in the middle of the Atlantic. You look at Patrick. He looks at you. Neither of you believes it. But you turn back anyway. What choice do you have? Below decks, the corridors are filling fast. People spill out of cabins, half awake, confused. Some already wear life belts, the bulky cork vests strapped awkwardly over nightshirts and coats. Others ask questions. What's happening? Why are we awake? The stewards move through the crowd, calm and steady. Just a precaution. Everything is fine. No danger. They're lying. Or maybe they don't know. Maybe they've been told to keep everyone calm while decisions are made above. You reach your cabin. Margaret is already awake, already dressed. Her hands shake as she fastens life belts onto her children. William is crying now, frightened and overtired. Mary is silent, eyes wide, clutching that same piece of rope. "What's happening?" Margaret asks. "We hit something, you say." "Ice." They say it's a precaution. You don't say more. You don't need to. She can hear it in your voice. You struggle into your own life belt. The cork is cold. The straps don't make sense in the dim light. It takes 3 tries to fasten it properly. "Daniel," Margaret says, her voice low. "My husband is forward with the other men. I need to find him. You think of the gates between sections, the long corridors, the distance between bow and stern. I'll help you, you say. The 4 of you step back into the corridor. It's packed now, shoulder to shoulder, a slow-moving river of people flowing toward the stairs. The ship is still strangely calm. But underneath it all, something has shifted, and you feel it, deep in your bones, even if no one is saying it out loud. A river of people flows through the corridors now, moving in both directions at once, colliding and separating, slowing and surging like water finding cracks in stone. Everyone is talking. Everyone is asking questions. English and Irish and Swedish and Finnish, words overlapping until they lose their meaning and become only sound. Fear has a sound of its own, and it fills the ship. At the foot of the main staircase, a steward steps into your path. He spreads his arms slightly, not aggressive, just firm. "Women and children only," he says. "Please wait here. You'll be moved to the boat deck shortly." Margaret steps forward at once. "My husband is forward," she says. "I need to find him." The steward shakes his head, already rehearsed in this answer. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The forward sections are being evacuated separately. You'll see him on deck." She doesn't believe him. You can see it in her eyes. But the steward doesn't move, and there is no arguing with a man whose authority is backed by uniform and urgency and fear. For just a second, Margaret's face crumples. Just a second. Then she straightens. She lifts her chin. She looks at you. "Find him," she says. "Tell him where we are. Tell him we're waiting." And then she's gone, carried away in the current of women and children moving upward. William clings to her. Mary holds her skirt. You watch them disappear around a corner, and a cold thought settles quietly in your chest. You hope it isn't the last time you see them. "Come on," Patrick says softly. "Let's find Daniel." You turn towards Scotland Road, that long spine of corridor running the length of the ship. But it isn't open anymore. Gates that stood wide during the day are closed now. Stewards stand in front of them, hands out, voices calm but unyielding. "For your safety, sir. Please wait here. You'll be directed shortly." "My cousin's husband is forward," Patrick says. "We need to get through. All passengers forward are being evacuated. You'll meet them on deck. But the gates are locked." "How can they evacuate if the gates are locked?" For just a moment the steward's face changes, a flicker, a crack. Then the mask returns. "They're being opened as needed, sir. Please remain calm. Everything is under control. Everything is under control." They keep saying it slow and steady like a prayer. But shortly never comes. Minutes pass. The crowd thickens. People press closer. Voices rise. Someone shouts. Somewhere behind you a woman screams. A child sobs, sharp and desperate. And then you feel it. At first it's so slight you think you imagined it. The floor feels different. Not wrong exactly. Just not level. You stand still and pay attention. A bottle rolls slowly across a table toward the bow. A loose suitcase slides an inch, then another. The ship is tilting. Not much, just enough, but enough to know. Panic spreads like a stain. People push against the gates now. Anger and fear boil together. The stewards shout, trying to hold the line, but their faces have changed. The calm is gone. They know something bad. "There's another way," a man says. You turn. He's older, weathered, with the look of someone who has lived on ships. Scandinavian, maybe. "Follow me." You don't question him, you follow. He leads you through a narrow side passage, through a door marked crew only, up a stairwell you've never seen before. The route twists and turns. It feels secret, improvised. The ship groans around you, metal shifting under pressure. You emerge into a different world. Second-class territory, maybe. The carpet is thicker. The walls are cleaner. People stand around wearing life belts, looking just as lost as everyone else. Up, the man says. Keep going up. The boats are on the boat deck. You climb again. Past open staterooms where belongings lie scattered on beds, coats abandoned, shoes left behind. Past stewards who don't stop you anymore. The rules are dissolving now. And then you step outside. The boat deck. The cold hits you like a blow, far worse than before. The air burns your lungs. Your breath turns to ice in your chest. The stars blaze overhead, sharp and merciless. The sea is flat and black, and the bow of the ship is gone. Not gone, exactly. Submerged. The front of the Titanic slopes down into the water, disappearing beneath the surface. You can see it clearly. The unsinkable ship is sinking. For a long moment, your mind refuses to accept it. This ship is enormous. Steel and steam and confidence. Ships like this don't sink. They told you it couldn't. But the water doesn't care. The water keeps rising. People are screaming now, crying, praying. Officers shout orders, voices strained, trying to load lifeboats, trying to keep some kind of order. But you see it at once, there aren't enough boats. Not nearly enough. You promised Margaret. You have to find Daniel. But if he was forward, if he didn't get out in time, you push through the crowd, searching faces, looking for anyone familiar. Margaret, Daniel, Nora from Galway, the Finnish man whose name you never learned. Patrick stays close. His hand grips your arm, tight and painful. You don't pull away, you need the anchor. A lifeboat creaks as it's lowered. Women and children only, the officers shout again and again. Families are torn apart in front of you. Children pulled from father's arms. Wives screaming names into the night. You stop near the railing, you breathe. The ship is sinking. The thought lands heavy and cold. No. Stop. Think. The lifeboats. You have to get on a lifeboat, you know that. The thought repeats itself slowly, steadily, like a voice trying to stay calm. But the boats are already filling. Women and children are being pulled forward, lifted over the rails, lowered away into the dark. Men are held back. Officers stand rigid, pistols drawn, faces set hard against mercy. No rushing. No arguing. This is the rule now. Is this how it ends, you wonder? Is this how hundreds of dreams fade out together on a cold night in the middle of the ocean, aboard a ship that was never supposed to fail? The thought feels distant, unreal, like something happening to someone else, because you're not dead yet. You're still breathing, still standing. The deck is tilting, yes, but it's still there beneath your feet. The ship is still afloat. There must be time. There has to be. Somewhere nearby, music drifts through the night. At first you think you're imagining it, but no, there are musicians here on the deck. Real men with real instruments, playing as if this were any other evening. The notes rise and fall gently, floating over the screams and the sobbing, soft and strange and almost comforting. A melody you almost recognize. Something familiar, something from another life. You look out over the railing. The lifeboats are already on the water now, rowing away. Small white shapes moving slowly across the Black Sea. Some of them aren't full. You can see the empty spaces, room for more. But they keep going. They don't turn back. They're afraid of being swamped, afraid of the hands reaching up from the water. They're saving themselves. You can't blame them. You know you'd probably do the same. The deck lurches beneath you, not sharply, just enough to remind you that time is running out. The bow is sinking faster now. The stern is rising, lifting you higher into the night. Soon there won't be a deck at all. Soon there will only be the water, cold and dark and endless. Your thoughts drift, slow and heavy. Your mother, your father, the farm you'll never see again, the fields, the quiet mornings, America. the life that was waiting for you just out of reach, all of it slipping away, sinking down into the Atlantic with the ship. But not yet. Not yet. You grab Patrick's arm. Come on, you say. We're not dying here. You pull him toward the stern. Walking feels strange now. Like climbing uphill. The deck slopes more steeply with every step. The wood slick beneath your boots. People slide past you, losing their footing, tumbling toward the bow where the water is creeping higher, swallowing the lights one by one. The lights are still on. That's the strangest part. All this chaos, all this fear, and the electric lights still glow warmly, as if nothing is wrong. Somewhere deep below, engineers are still working, still keeping the power alive, doing their jobs until the very end. You wonder if they know what's coming. The stern rises higher. Furniture breaks loose. Deck chairs skid past like leaves caught in a storm. Somewhere above you, a piano. How did a piano get here? Slides across the deck and smashes through a railing. The sound of splintering wood and breaking glass echoes through the night. You grab a railing. Patrick grips you just as tightly. The angle is worsening now. 40 degrees, 50. Your feet slip. You're no longer standing, so much as hanging, your arms burning, the dark water rushing closer beneath you. The ship groans, a deep tearing sound that seems to come from everywhere at once. Metal screaming under impossible strain. Something inside the hull is giving way, something enormous. The lights flicker, go out, come back, flicker again, and then the ship breaks. You feel it before you understand it. A violent shudder, a crack like thunder tearing the world in two. For a terrible instant, you're weightless, falling, spinning. The stern drops back down, leveling out just enough to fool you into hope. You slam onto the deck. The breath is knocked from your lungs. Patrick crashes beside you, gasping, still holding your arm as if letting go would mean death itself. For a few seconds you dare to believe. The stern is floating. The bow is gone, torn away, but this part is still here. Maybe it will hold, maybe rescue will come, maybe somehow you'll survive. Then the stern begins to rise again, pulled downward by the broken bow, still tethered by cables and pipes and steel. The angle steepens, 60 degrees, 70. People lose their grip and slide past you, screaming as they disappear into the darkness below. Your hands are numb. You can't feel your fingers anymore. The cold has taken them. The railing slips, just a little, then more. You try to tighten your grip, but your body won't listen. I can't hold on, Patrick says, his voice barely audible. Neither can you. Your hands fail. You slide faster now, the deck tearing at your clothes, the night rushing up to meet you. And then there is nothing beneath you at all. You hit the water. The cold is beyond anything you have ever known. Beyond cold, beyond pain. It's like being stabbed by 1,000 knives at once. Your lungs seize, your heart stutters, every nerve screams. 28 degrees, they'll say later, below freezing, cold enough to kill you in minutes, cold enough to stop your heart before you can even drown. You can't breathe. That's the first thing you notice. Your chest is locked, frozen, refusing to move. Your body goes into shock, shutting down, trying to protect itself from something it was never meant to endure. The gasp reflex hits, violent and uncontrollable, trying to pull water into your lungs. You fight it, clamp your mouth shut, force yourself to stay calm when every instinct is begging you to panic. Move. You have to move. You force your arms to work, force your legs to kick. The life belt keeps you afloat, the cork vest doing its job, but floating isn't enough. You need something solid, something to hold on to. You have minutes, maybe less, 15 at most if you're lucky. The water around you is chaos, bodies everywhere, people thrashing, screaming, grabbing blindly in the dark. Hands clutch at your life belt, your arms, your face. Desperation has no rules, no mercy. A woman's face appears in front of you, pale and wide-eyed, her mouth open in a scream you can't hear. And the water keeps moving, cold and black, carrying you all together into the night. She grabs your shoulder and tries to haul herself up onto you, using your body like a piece of wreckage, and suddenly you're being pushed under. The water closes over your head. Instinct takes over. You shove her away. You have to. If you let her climb on you, if you let her drag you down, you both die. Another hand grabs your ankle, yanks hard, desperate. You kick wildly until it lets go. The guilt hits immediately, heavy and sickening, settling in your stomach like a stone. But survival isn't noble. Survival isn't kind. Survival is ugly and selfish and cold. Padre, you try to shout. The word barely leaves your throat. It comes out as a hoarse croak, thinner than a whisper. The cold is inside you now, in your throat, in your lungs, stealing your breath, stealing your voice, stealing your strength. You can't see him. You can't see anyone. There's only darkness and churning water, and the vague, flailing shapes of other people fighting for the same few seconds of life. The ship is gone. At some point while you were falling, while you were gasping and choking and clawing your way back to the surface, the Titanic slipped beneath the sea. The largest ship ever built vanished in moments, swallowed whole, leaving behind nothing but broken wood, scattered belongings, and human beings where there had once been certainty. Something bumps into your leg, hard, solid, wood, a piece of something, maybe a door, maybe part of a wall, maybe a section of deck. You grab it without thinking. Your hands barely work, but they find purchase. You drag yourself onto it, half out of the water. Your chest and legs are still submerged, but your head and shoulders are above the surface. And that's enough. That's everything. The cold is killing you. You can feel it, not as pain anymore, but as a deep spreading heaviness. Your fingers have stopped obeying you. Your legs feel distant, unreal. Your thoughts slow, blur at the edges, slipping out of sequence. Hypothermia. The word floats through your mind, detached and clinical. Your body temperature is dropping faster than it can recover. Death by inches, by minutes, by degrees. You think of your mother, your father, the farm in Cork you'll never walk again, the sister in Boston who doesn't know yet that her brother is dying in the middle of the Atlantic. You think of America, all those plans, all that hope, the life you were going to build, freezing with you now, sinking deeper with every second. Around you the screaming continues, hundreds of voices crying out in the darkness, calling for help, calling for God, calling for their mothers. The sound is unbearable, a raw, endless chorus of fear and pain that seems to stretch forever across the water. And then slowly it begins to fade. Not all at once, one voice at a time. A scream cuts off, then another and another. The cold taking them, the water claiming them. Silence spreading across the sea like a blanket being pulled gently, mercilessly tight, until there is nothing left but the quiet slap of waves and the creak of floating wood. You're still alive. You don't know how. You don't know why. But you are, and you cling to that fact with everything you have left. You tell yourself you're going to stay alive because you promised your mother you'd write to her from New York, and you're damned if you're going to break that promise now. Time passes. You have no idea how much. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like nothing. The stars turn slowly overhead, cold and distant, indifferent to everything happening below. The cold works at you patiently, relentlessly. At some point you stop shivering. That scares you more than anything else. You know what that means. You read it somewhere once. Heard it from someone. When the shivering stops, it means your body has given up trying to save itself. It means the end is close, but you don't give up. You can't. Not yet. A voice drifts through the darkness, faint, broken, alive. Here, you try to call back. Over here, your voice is barely there, a thread of sound. You're not sure it even leaves your mouth, but somehow it's enough. A shape drifts closer, clinging to a piece of wreckage just like you. A familiar shape. Patrick. Selian, he says. His voice is weak, shaking, but real. I thought you were gone. Not yet, you manage. You reach for him. Your fingers don't work properly, but you manage to hook your arm around his life belt and pull him closer. Somewhere, somehow, you find a length of rope. You fumble with it, slow and clumsy, but you tie the two of you together. If one of you slips under, the other will feel it. If one of you dies, the other won't be alone. You wait. The cold is part of you now, no longer sharp, no longer burning. Just there, like the darkness, like the silence, something to endure. You press closer to Patrick, sharing what little warmth remains. His breathing is shallow, uneven, but steady. He's alive. You're alive. For now, that has to be enough. Your mind drifts back to the party hours ago, the laughter, the dancing, whiskey warming your chest. Eugene Daly's pipes screaming jigs into the night. The Swedish girl whose name you never learned. The Italians dancing wildly while everyone cheered. All that joy, all those people. Most of them are dead now, floating nearby or already sinking 2 miles down to the ocean floor where they'll rest in silence until the end of time. You think of Margaret, of her children. Did they reach a lifeboat? Are they out there somewhere wrapped in blankets, alive while you freeze? You hope so. You pray so. Little William and Mary deserve to grow up, deserve to see America. You think of Daniel, forward with the other men when the water rushed in. Did he make it out? Did any of them? The gates were closed, the water came so fast. Maybe some escaped, maybe none did. You'll probably never know. Then you see it. A light. Far away at first, moving across the black water. You think you're imagining it, your mind making shapes out of hope. But Patrick sees it too. He lifts a shaking hand and points. Boats, he whispers, lifeboats. And for the first time since you hit the water, something stirs inside you that isn't cold or fear. Hope. They're coming back. Some of them at least. Small lights move across the black water, slow and cautious, searching this quiet graveyard of floating bodies, looking for movement, looking for breath, looking for anyone who hasn't yet been taken by the cold. You try to shout. Nothing comes. Your throat is locked, frozen. You try to lift an arm, to wave, to make yourself seen, but your body no longer listens. All you can do is float and wait and hope. Hope they come close enough. Hope they look in your direction. Hope they still care. The light draws nearer. Voices now, real voices, calling out into the darkness, asking if anyone is alive. You try to answer. A sound leaves your mouth, but it doesn't sound like you. It's broken, animal, barely human, a noise scraped from somewhere deep inside your chest. But it's enough. The voices react. The light shifts. Hands reach down through the darkness, grab hold of your life belt, firm and solid, and suddenly you're being pulled up and out of the water. The boat rocks dangerously as your weight comes over the side. You don't remember climbing in. You don't remember anything except the sudden absence of the water, the way the cold loosens its grip just a little, the rough scratch of wool as a blanket is wrapped around your shoulders. A stranger's face hovers above you, lined with worry and pity. Someone rubs your arms, your legs, trying to force warmth back into flesh that barely remembers how to feel. It hurts. God, it hurts. The return of sensation is almost worse than the numbness. Your fingers and toes burn like they're on fire, the cold trapped inside them fighting to get out. You bite down on a cry. Patrick is beside you. Alive. Barely, but alive. Someone tips a cup to his lips. Whiskey, maybe. Brandy. Something strong and sharp meant to push the cold back from the inside. A cup touches your own mouth. You drink without thinking. The burn in your throat is the first warm thing you've felt in hours. You're in lifeboat 14. Officer Lowe's boat. You'll learn that later. You'll learn that he went back when most did not. That he transferred his passengers to other boats and turned around, rowing into the darkness and the silence and the bodies. You'll learn that not many were saved, that by the time he reached the wreck site, most of the voices were already gone. But right now, you don't know any of that. All you know is that you're not in the water anymore. You're not freezing to death tonight. Against all odds, against reason, against the cold Atlantic's patient certainty, you're going to live. The boat is crowded with survivors. Some are conscious, some aren't. A few are crying softly. Most sit in silence, staring at nothing, their faces emptied out by shock. You understand that look. You feel it too, like something vital inside you cracked and may never fit back together again. The oars dip into the water. Slow, steady, the rowing resumes, carrying you away from the wreck site, away from the floating bodies and the debris and the place where the screaming used to be. Behind you, the ocean stretches out, empty and dark. No trace of the ship that was supposed to be unsinkable. No sign of the hundreds of dreams that went down with her. Just water, just darkness, just stars that don't care. You survived. You don't know how, you don't know why. Now you have to figure out what that means. How to keep living when so many others didn't. How to carry the weight of this night for the rest of your life. The sky is still dark. Dawn is hours away. You drift in the open boat, shivering beneath thin blankets, waiting for rescue that might come, or might not. But you're alive. Patrick is alive. And somewhere out there, maybe Margaret and her children are alive too. Maybe enough of you survived to matter. Maybe enough of you lived to remember the ones who didn't. The boat drifts. Survivors murmur softly, sharing fragments of what they saw, what they lost. A woman weeps quietly, repeating a name like a prayer. A man stares into the water, lips moving in silent devotion. Everyone carries a story. Everyone is missing someone. You don't speak, neither does Patrick. There are no words for what just happened. No language for watching the largest ship in the world disappear beneath the waves. No way to explain what it feels like to be in water so cold that death almost feels like relief. Your eyes close. You know you should stay awake. The cold is still inside you, still dangerous. They say sleep is where hypothermia finishes its work. But your body doesn't listen. It fought through the impossible. It kept you alive through the worst night you'll ever know. Now it needs rest. The last things you hear are the soft splash of oars, the creak of wood, the low voices of survivors too stunned to cry. Somewhere, someone is singing. A hymn, maybe. A lullaby. Something gentle and sad and strangely comforting. Then nothing, just darkness. And the long wait for morning. Light wakes you. Grey light filtering through your eyelids. Dawn. You made it to dawn. For a moment, you don't know where you are. The sky above is pale and washed out, edged with soft pink. The air is bitterly cold. Your body aches in ways you didn't know were possible. Then memory returns. The ship, the water, the cold that tried to kill you. You sit up, or try to. Your muscles protest, stiff and uncooperative. But eventually you manage, bracing yourself against the side of the lifeboat. The ocean stretches in every direction, calm now, almost peaceful, like nothing terrible ever happened here. Like 1,500 people didn't die in these waters just hours ago. And then you see the ice. Ice everywhere. Icebergs scattered across the horizon like mountains. Some towering and massive, others small and sharp, barely breaking the surface. The rising sun catches them and they glow, pink and gold and white. Beautiful. Terrible. One of those did this. One of those tore open steel and ended so many lives. Patrick is beside you, still breathing. His face is pale, lips tinged blue, but his eyes flutter open and meet yours. Neither of you speaks. There's nothing to say. Other survivors stir. Some don't move at all. They likely died in the night, the cold finishing what the water began. Near the bow, A woman rocks back and forth, weeping softly, cradling something against her chest. The morning is quiet. Too quiet. A child's coat. Just the coat. It lies there in the bottom of the boat, small and folded in on itself, as if its owner has only stepped away for a moment. But the child is not there. The space where they should be is empty, and the emptiness feels heavier than anything else you've seen this night. You look away. Some things are too much to hold in your mind, especially when you're already so tired. Out on the horizon, something moves. At first, it's only a darker smudge against the pale morning sky, easy to mistake for cloud or shadow. Then it shifts again, steady and deliberate. A ship. Someone else sees it too. A hand lifts, pointing. A cracked voice cries out and heads slowly turn. Hollow eyes focus. For the first time in hours, something like hope stirs, fragile and uncertain. The shape grows larger, closer. You can see smoke now, a dark ribbon rising from its funnel. Then a green flare arcs up into the morning air, bright and unmistakable, and another follows it. They're coming. Help is coming. The woman clutching the child's coat stops rocking. She stops weeping. She just stares at the approaching ship, her face unreadable. Relief, perhaps, or perhaps the quiet understanding that rescue cannot undo what has already been lost. The ship is called the Carpathia. You'll learn that later. A Cunard liner, smaller than Titanic, less grand, less talked about. But in this moment, rising through the ice-filled sea toward you, it is the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. It takes hours. The Carpathia must move slowly, carefully, threading her way through the same ice field that killed the Titanic. Every iceberg is a warning. Every shadow in the water, a reminder of what happens when steel moves too fast. So she comes gently, patiently, and finally she reaches you. One by one, the lifeboats row toward her. Yours is among the last. By the time you draw alongside her towering hull, the sun is fully up. The ship rises above you like a cliff, dark and solid and safe. Rope ladders dangle down. Doors near the waterline stand open. Crew members lean out, arms stretched, voices calm and steady. Getting aboard is harder than it should be. Your hands still don't work properly. Your legs tremble, barely willing to hold your weight. But the crew is patient. They've been doing this all morning. They know how to lift people who spent the night in freezing water, waiting to die. Hands grasp you, strong, sure. You're guided upward, through a doorway, and suddenly you're inside. Warmth hits you like a wall. Your skin prickles, your eyes sting with tears you didn't know you still had. After hours in the cold, ordinary room temperature feels like standing too close to a fire. A blanket is wrapped around your shoulders. A cup is pressed into your hands. Hot coffee. You drink it without thinking, the heat spreading through your chest, thawing you from the inside out. Patrick is beside you, alive, still breathing. Somehow, impossibly, the two of you made it. The passengers of the Carpathia give up everything: cabins, clothes, food, privacy. They share without hesitation. A woman about your mother's age takes your arm and leads you to a chair. She brings soup, bread, another blanket. Her eyes are kind. She asks no questions. She simply takes care of you, as if you were her own. You eat the first real food you've had since dinner on Titanic. It tastes like nothing. Everything tastes like nothing now, but you eat anyway because your body needs it, because you're alive and you need to stay that way. The morning passes in a blur. More survivors come aboard. People call out names, searching decks and rooms and faces, hoping for answers that mostly don't come. Sometimes there are reunions, a wife finding her husband, a mother finding her children. Those moments shine brightly against the brief proofs that not every story ended in darkness. You search too. You look for Margaret, for William and Mary. You walk the decks, the dining rooms, the makeshift medical areas where doctors tend frostbitten hands and shock-hollowed eyes. You ask again and again, describing them as best you can. An Irish woman from Galway, a lively boy, a quiet girl who always held a piece of rope. No one knows. No one remembers. There were too many women, too many children, too many boats, too much chaos. You never find them. Daniel, Margaret's husband, isn't among the survivors either. The men in the forward sections, the ones who felt the water first, who tried to find their way through unfamiliar corridors and locked gates and stairways marked crew only. Most of them didn't make it. The numbers will come later. The statistics, the cold accounting of survival rates. Third-class men fared the worst. Fewer than 1 in 6 lived. The Carpathia does not linger. Once the last lifeboat is aboard, Captain Rostron turns the ship toward New York. 3 days away, 3 days to grieve, 3 days to exist in the quiet aftermath of catastrophe. You spend most of that time on deck, staring at the ocean, not thinking, just breathing, just being alive when so many others are not. Patrick stays close. Neither of you speaks much. Silence says what words cannot. Other survivors gather in small knots, sharing stories, sharing anger. Some talk about half-empty lifeboats, about crew members who turned them back, about gates that stayed closed too long. You listen, but you don't join in. Anger takes energy you don't have. On the 3rd day, you see New York. The Statue of Liberty rises out of the harbor, green and distant, holding her torch. The symbol of everything you cross the ocean for: freedom, opportunity, a new life. You thought you'd feel something when you saw her. You don't. You feel empty, tired, glad only that the journey is over. The Carpathia docks at night, in the rain. Thousands wait on the pier, families hoping, reporters hunting stories, curious onlookers drawn by tragedy. The electric lights are blinding after days at sea. First class disembarks first. Of course they do. Then second class. Third class waits and waits. Immigration officials check papers, inspect faces, ask questions, make sure you're healthy enough, worthy enough. You sit wrapped in borrowed clothes, listening to the rain against the windows, waiting for a man with a clipboard to decide whether you're allowed to step onto American soil. The same country you nearly died reaching, the same country that promised welcome to the tired and the poor. You sit, you breathe, and you wait. That country wants to make sure you're not too tired, not too poor, not too huddled together before it lets you in. The words on the statue sound generous, welcoming, almost kind. The process beneath them is slower, colder, more careful. You wait. Everyone waits. Papers are checked again and again. Names are read off lists. Faces are examined under harsh electric lights. Eventually, close to midnight, nearly 3 hours after the first-class passengers have already disappeared into carriages and embraces, you're allowed through. You step onto the pier in the rain. You're 19 years old. You have no money, no luggage, no possessions except the borrowed clothes on your back. No one is waiting for you. No familiar face in the crowd. No arms reaching out. Just the sound of rain on wood and iron, the low murmur of voices, and the smell of the city you came so close to never seeing. But you're alive. And for now, that has to count for something. The weeks that follow are hard in quiet, ordinary ways. You look for work wherever you can. You learn which streets to avoid, which boarding houses will let you stay for a night if you have a little money, which won't ask too many questions. You sleep lightly. You wake often. You write letters home to Ireland telling your family that you survived, choosing your words carefully, not wanting to frighten them more than necessary. Then you wait for their reply. Days pass, weeks. The city moves on around you. Everywhere the newspapers are full of Titanic. Headlines, diagrams, lists of the dead, lists of the saved, investigations, arguments, blame passed back and forth, questions asked loudly, and other questions quietly ignored. People talk about it on street corners, in boarding houses, in places where men gather to eat cheap meals. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks they know what went wrong. In May, the British inquiry begins. Officials sit in rooms far away and call witnesses one by one. Officers speak, crew members speak, first-class passengers speak. They talk about what they saw, what they heard, what they remember. They study the ship's design. They discuss the iceberg warnings that were sent and received and ignored. They count the lifeboats. They ask why they weren't filled. They do not call a single third-class passenger. Not one. All those people who were in the lower corridors, the ones who couldn't find their way, the ones who waited for instructions that never came, the ones who died by the hundreds while lifeboats left with empty seats. None of them are asked to speak. None of them are given a chance to say what really happened down below in Scotland Road in those narrow passageways, behind those gates that may or may not have been locked. The inquiry concludes that the ship's design didn't give any class an advantage in reaching the lifeboats. That's what they say. That third class had just as much chance as anyone else. You know it isn't true. Everyone who was there knows it isn't true. The lifeboats were on the boat deck. Third class was 3 decks down, through unfamiliar corridors marked crew only, past barriers kept closed for safety. First class could walk to the boats in minutes. Third class had to fight through a maze they'd never seen before, in the dark, while the ship was sinking. But the inquiry doesn't want to hear that. It wants conclusions. It wants recommendations. More lifeboats. Better radio watches. Then it wants to close the book and move on. It doesn't want to talk about class, about how the rich survived and the poor drowned, about how steerage passengers were treated like cargo, stored low in the ship and then not properly guided out when disaster came. The era was supposed to be different. These ships were meant to be better, cleaner, more humane, and in some ways they were. The cabins were nicer than the old coffin ships. The food was better, the treatment more polite. But when it came down to it, when there weren't enough lifeboats, when every minute mattered, third class was still third class. The people with money were saved. The people without money were not. That truth is buried along with 1,500 bodies at the bottom of the Atlantic. You think about it late at night when sleep won't come, when memories surface and you're back in the water again, cold and dark, listening as the screaming fades into silence. You think about Eugene and his pipes, the music as the ship left Queenstown, the dancing on Sunday night, all that joy, all that hope. You think about the Swedish couple, Eric and Ingrid, newly married, heading to Minnesota to begin their life together. You never learned if they survived. Probably not. Most couples were separated. Women to the boats, men left behind. You think about Nora from Galway, the grandmother who'd crossed the Atlantic 3 times before. She knew ships. She'd seen good ones and bad ones. This one was supposed to be the best, the unsinkable one. You think about Margaret and her children. William, full of restless energy. Mary, quiet, always holding her piece of rope. You hope they made it. You hope they're somewhere in America now, safe and warm, building the life they dreamed of. But you don't know. You'll never know. The records are incomplete, names misspelled, ages guessed. Half the third-class passengers were never properly documented at all. They died anonymous, and they remain that way. Their stories unwritten, their memories fading year by year. That's why this matters. That's why you're hearing this story tonight. Not because it's exciting, not because there's anything thrilling about a ship hitting an iceberg, but because there were real people on that ship. People like you, people who wanted simple things, safety, comfort, a chance to build something better. People who boarded a ship in Ireland or England or Sweden or Italy, carrying everything they owned. People heading toward a country they'd never seen, imagining a future they could barely picture. People who laughed and danced and ate their meals beneath electric lights. People who wrote letters home saying this was the most beautiful ship in the world. People who deserved better than they got. And now here you are, In your bed, in your warm room, your pillow beneath your head, your blankets pulled close, a glass of water on the nightstand, safe, comfortable, alive. The ocean is far away, the ice is far away. The cold that killed so many people is only a story now. Just words, just something that happened a long time ago to someone else. But it did happen. And somewhere, 2 miles down, at the bottom of the Atlantic, the ship is still there, broken in two, covered in rust, slowly dissolving. Home now to fish and crabs and the quiet decay of everything that was once bright and new and full of promise. And the water above it is calm. The grand staircases, the dining saloons, the smoking rooms where men once sat and talked softly, the general rooms, the cabins with their thin wooden walls that never quite kept sound or cold away, Scotland Road with its long corridors and steady footsteps, all of it is gone now. Not destroyed in a loud or violent way, but taken down into the cold and the dark, preserved in a place where no one will ever walk those corridors again. No one will sit on those chairs or lean against those railings or wait in those passageways, wondering what comes next. The people who died there are gone too, their bodies scattered across the seafloor or slowly dissolved into the water itself over time. There are no markers for most of them, no graves you can visit, no stones with names carved into them, just the quiet pressure of the ocean and the slow passing of years. But their stories remain, their hopes remain, the dreams they carried with them across the ocean, dreams of work, of safety, of family, of something better than what they left behind. Those remain. They exist in memory, in records that survived, in names spoken softly and sometimes incorrectly, in stories like this one. And that matters. That's worth remembering. That's worth telling. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, think about them. Think about the third-class passengers of the Titanic, the immigrants, the workers, the families chasing a better life across a wide and unfamiliar ocean. Think about what they went through, what they hoped for, what they lost along the way. Think about the courage it took to leave everything familiar behind and step onto a ship bound for somewhere new. And be grateful for your warm bed, for your safety, for the quiet room around you, for the fact that you get to wake up tomorrow, that you get to keep living, keep dreaming, keep building whatever life you want to build. They didn't get that chance, but you do. Your eyes are heavy now. Your breathing has slowed. The story has reached its end. There's nothing more you need to hold on to. Sleep is coming, soft and warm and safe. Let it come. Let the darkness settle gently around you like a blanket pulled up to your shoulders. Let your thoughts drift away, out across the water, back through time, back to a ship that was supposed to be unsinkable, to people who were supposed to reach New York, to dreams that were supposed to come true. They're at peace now, all of them, the ones who made it and the ones who didn't. The ocean has been still for a long time. The dead have been sleeping for more than 100 years. The world has moved on. But we remember, we always remember. Good night, sleep well, and dream of better crossings.